permission slip signed?
I did. Yeah. I had to, obviously.
That is hilarious that the AI has determined that you're a child.
Bro, I just had a real bad experience about 5 minutes ago. I thought I was gonna have to fucking last minute cancel or something. I got on these peptides, and the fucking needle broke off my stomach, and I was like, oh, that's not good. What do we do here? And I was like, well, and then I was like, oh wait, I'm not a bitch, and so I just took a hunting knife and we cut that bitch out.
What needles are you buying?
Well, it's whatever the pharmacy sends me. It comes with the prescription.
Okay.
I mean, I've never had it happen before. I've done it like, I don't know, for like 8
Maybe like a batch like this. It's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's the first time it's happened, and I looked it up online, and apparently it's a common thing. You might get like one like every once in a while. That's like I don't know, diabetic needle thing.
Have you been working out? Did it break on your abs?
Bro, you know what? You know what my ex-wife would say all the time? She goes, "You're so weird." I go, "Why?" She goes, "You have a gut." I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "But then you punch your gut and you can like feel the abs." I'm like, "Yeah, it's all the copious amounts of smoke that I do, all the coughing has made my abs rock solid."
Well, yeah, I mean, like it's just fat over the abs, but
yeah, she's like, I've never seen anybody like that in my life, where you poke them in the stomach and the fat, and then they're like, oh shit, that's a rock.
I should have done that when I met you. Right?
Yeah,
I should have
I've seen that. I've seen that a bunch of times. Right? Usually with alcoholics.
Yeah, it's also like a lot of people that like, if you worked out a lot when you're younger.
There's a term for it. There's a term for it. It's called turpidity. Right, it's something you check when you're looking for like internal bleeding when you're doing like a assessment, like a trauma assessment.
I'm gonna call it fat assness. Is what I'm gonna call it.
Technical term.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Yeah, but it was saying if you have like internal bleeding or you're an alcoholic or things like that, you tend to have a more rigid stomach despite being fat.
Well, I don't know about alcoholic, but for sure the internal bleeding is for sure happening. I only drink like one day a week now.
He's like that needle got my superior mesenteric, man.
Yeah, it got my rock hard abs.
Are you under the weather, Prime, or at least it sounds like you're congested to me?
I am.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it is what it is. But I'm glad to be here with you guys.
Have you tried drinking about it? That solves all my problems, apparently.
I didn't even get sleep last night, so I'm kind of loopy here and dizzy. But
Jesus Christ, bro.
It's fine. And I've gone through worse than this. You were probably here when I had fucking COVID and I did this.
Fake illness.
But anyways, it's not an excuse or anything like that. I'm just
bro, when I had COVID, my fucking water heater went out the same day I got COVID. And I had to take cold showers for like 2 weeks with COVID. And let me tell you, listen, I understand that Joe Rogan really wants us all taking cold showers, but the time to experiment with cold showers is not when you get COVID. That fucking blows. I don't take cold showers anymore, but I do start my shower as a cold shower every time. Like I don't let the water warm up. I just cut it on, like wake up in the shower like, oh shit, get my head, get everything cold, and then the water just naturally warms up.
I feel like this is like a military thing, like in the barracks. Is that where you started that?
I did, but I had forgotten that I did that. That is the thing that started in like basic. You get a lot of cold showers in basic because you have so many people using all the water at the exact same time because you have like a 1 hour window where like 500 people need to take a shower.
Fun times.
Yeah, it's just a walk-in, so it's just you and a bunch of dudes being like switch, so like you're under the water and then you switch and then you're soaping on up and everything.
Shame we haven't advanced to the point of Starship Troopers, but
you mean the intramural showering?
Yeah. Do you remember that, Scott?
It's been so long since I've seen that film.
It's a famous scene in the movie that like they had showers for their infantry, right? But it was co-ed, and that was like a thing that stood out.
Yeah, that was before Sharp really took off. Before people were like, "Oh, sexual harassment is like not." It's not something that's that funny,
What's crazy about that?
Movies that came out before woke hit us. You know what I mean? Like,
no.
And I'm just saying,
it's post woke. No, it's post woke. It's saying that like we've advanced.
Oh no. I agree with you, right? But there are
Okay.
certain things that, like, you know, like, look, fuck wokeness in Hollywood. All right, it's way too much. But like, there are some times where you watch something and you're like, we could use a little of that, maybe. You know what I mean? Like,
Well,
like,
what's really
you know,
interesting about that?
just a little awoke, just a sprinkle of woke would have been all right here.
So that scene specifically, I don't remember if it's a big deal in the book, but that scene specifically, I remember was like real like controversial. But then there were several, and I was like interesting because when you read several other books that are written like the Forever War, which is written in response to Starship Troopers, like there's a several co-ed scenes, and then a big plot point of the Forever War is that everybody turns gay, and it's not like a testament for like, oh, gay, whatever, but like they turn gay because of like rationing, right? They're trying to like ration, so a third of the population goes gay, and then they start getting
Ashley
into,
Pussy?
yeah, no rationing food because there's food riots on Earth, but this guy like is gone because he's dealing with time dilation, right? So he keeps coming back from these missions, and Earth is
So
different.
it's like
each time.
it's like starvation prison gay,
Right.
where it's
well,
like,
it's
well,
not
you know,
quite.
I can't afford
It's
to have a
complicated.
baby.
It's complicated, but this is not the part that's important. So later in the novel, he comes back from another mission, and the world has changed again, where to like basically everybody's gay, and then you're doing cloning. Right, and that turns into the final plot point, like about cloning and why it's bad. But the whole thing is when he's on this final mission with this gay group of people, they all call him.
Hold on, pause. Hold on, pause. Question, very serious question. To conservatives for the rest of their lives, I have this question now. Do you think, how threatened would you feel if your clone was made and it was gay and it was your enemy and only one of you can survive?
I'll tell you right now, I'm winning that battle. But that regardless, like listen,
Winning the gay clone battle, or is the
listen.
gay clone more terrifying because it's gay?
No,
Is
the
he
cl-
more motivated to get
I
your
tell you
ass?
what. It's not gonna be gay what I do to him, but somebody's gonna be dominated. I'll tell you that. But let me finish. But anyway, moving on. There comes a scene towards the end of the book where they're calling him the old queer because he's straight and he's the only straight guy they've ever met, and he ends up like hooking up with one of these girls in the thing, and she basically is like, oh yeah, like we got drunk. I know we had fun. I don't remember. And she talks about how they all do their co-ed showers now, and he was like the only one abstaining. And she's like, oh, I think you'd probably be able to hook up more with people if you had came to the co-ed showers all the time instead. But you know, he was like an officer, so he had his own. And it was like, it's interesting that all these books all thought that general, like in the future we were all gonna be doing co-ed shit. Even in like the super gay future, apparently they thought co-ed showers were gonna be a big thing.
I think it can still happen. I mean, centuries from now, like they portrayed. But I think it's still on the table. And I think there are people do that in like certain areas any which way, right? Like in certain communities, they do exactly that. You know, it's interesting. Well, I don't know how interesting it is, but in Japanese animes, a lot of times you see, and I don't know how true this is to real life. I just don't know. But like in Japanese anime, you see sometimes that like the father, or the parents will like bathe with the children, like completely naked and stuff. Like you saw, for instance, Goku do that with Gohan.
I think it's a pretty common thing, actually.
Yeah.
And like not
I've
just
seen it in One
Japanese
Piece, I've
culture.
seen it. Yeah.
I think it's actually more of like an American prudish thing than it is actually a Japanese thing. I think it's the inverse, which is Americans are like you see it all the time where it's like some dad will like hug and kiss like his like kid that's like 4, and people will be like, it's a pedophile, and you're like, fucking what? Like,
yeah, it's his
like,
kid.
oh, fucking Americans being weird again because like they can't imagine. I was like, I'm sorry you have such bad daddy issues that you can't figure out that like a father loves his son or daughter.
Yeah.
Hi guys, good news. My package from Switzerland just cleared customs, so pretty excited about that.
Is that a euphemism for a hot lady, like a model that came through?
No, that's a euphemism for a bunch of expensive ass watches.
That would be
I'm watching
human
like
trafficking,
religiously.
if
Yeah, if my fucking watches that I spent a whole bunch of thousands of dollars on disappear, I'm gonna be real mad.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe don't announce that.
Yeah, well,
my
listen,
very
right?
valuable watches will be in my house
Somebody-
quite soon.
Listen, I hope. Well, there's one thing I hope more than getting the watches is that I've catch somebody trying to get them.
why do you need so many watches?
Fair enough.
Because it's listen, you know who Kevin O'Leary is?
Yeah.
Oh, I know he's Canadian, I think.
Yeah,
He's
he's the best Canadian.
He's an
Really.
awful person. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
the
actually,
best
no,
Canadian.
no.
Yeah,
He's a
he
terrible person.
swears by the one watch in every hand, thing. He's got like a Rolex on one and a Petite Philippe on the other. Now, I'm not douchebaggy enough to do that, but I do like accessorizing quite a bit, if you couldn't tell from my jewelry obsession.
That's true.
I mean, that's fair. I don't know that I would use like Kevin O'Leary for either fashion advice or advice on anything.
What about
in
Paul
life.
Heyman? Paul
I
Heyman's
don't know
got
who
a
that
similar philosophy. You don't know who Paul Heyman is?
I've heard of his name before, but I don't.
My name is Paul Heyman. You don't know that guy? No? Okay. Well, this is just going to go on deaf ears then.
Okay.
I cannot express
look him
the
up.
I'm saying
magnitude of
Kevin
Paul
O'Leary is like a Kevin O'Leary. Let me just put it this way: it takes a lot for a libertarian to hate a wealthy person in America,
Heyman.
and Kevin
We-
O'Leary
We know
is
Lactoid agrees with that.
hated. You know, like and like Kevin O'Leary is like a special type of piece of shit. Like he has been behind like the fucking quiet quitting thing that he was. I have to tell everyone that you're a bad person because you show up to work for 40 hours a week and do the minimum. It's like, yeah, maybe that's because you pay your employees shit, so they do shit work. Even the capitalist is like, you know who doesn't have a problem with quiet quitting? Costco doesn't have a problem with quiet quitting. You know why? Because Costco pays their fucking employees what they're worth. That's why Costco has good employees. You ever been to Costco and met somebody that was just like a piece of shit to you that worked at Costco? No, they're fucking laughing. They're jovial. They're telling stories. They're busting ass. You know why? Because they don't want to be fired from fucking Costco because the only fucking experience they have is a job that normally pays like $11 an hour, but they get paid like 31. So of course they're fucking happy and they're respectful and they're good people. Quiet quitting is a fucking employer's fault, not an employee's fault.
Mhm.
Now, yes, a person might do this behavior, but if this is something that is pervasive in your company, it's a you problem.
I see Fabian doesn't know about HEB, but yeah. Number one grocer in the
I
United
do
States.
know about HEB.
pay
I've
their employees a
I've
shitload.
only ever been once,
Mm.
and it was insane because there was just like a lot there. But I haven't been
It's
to
the
Texas
best.
in years.
Mm. It's like the libertarian.
But again, I use Costco only because it's an example that everybody in every state would know. Whereas like HEB is really more of just a Texas thing.
Holy fuck! I just got 9.
Even here in Canada, Costco seems to have that reputation.
Yeah. Oh god damn it!
So,
Don't get weird. All right, we're good.
Yeah, we all hate
Yeah.
Canada, Corey. Don't you know?
um,
Blame
so,
Canada.
I like that. So
It's an old
Liv-
South Park episode movie.
Yeah. So what we usually do to not it is for non-fun who doesn't know our ways, our mysterious ways here. How we usually start this is like, well, we're waiting for people to trickle in because they trickle in here. Like as
Mostly
Lactoid
Lactoid.
put off. Yeah. Clearly, right? He was confirmed with his African ancestors. And only once that's done will he make an appearance. But yeah, so we usually just wait for people to trickle in. But the one person,
Yeah, I mean,
really,
I've seen your content before. Like, obviously, I
Oh.
watched, I skimmed through part of your last episode, but that was mostly about Sydney Sweeney's fucking dope. So,
Ugly she is, and just
I
like
think we
nobody
should-
can find her attractive.
I
Yeah,
think we should
absolutely.
talk more about that, by the way, because Sydney Sweeney is wonderful. Did you see she's doing a Baskin Robbins ad now too? Fantastic.
oh, I didn't know,
Did not
know
watch it.
that.
Yeah.
Overrated.
America's
Overrated.
back, boys. America is back.
Like, I don't. Sorry. What do you want to say, Scott? Or maybe he's talking to his audience.
Yeah,
But
I don't know why. Why does
yeah,
the left
you're
hate hot
talking to us, so
women?
you're muted, friend.
My bad. I had a fucking super chat. All right. Like,
Yeah, why
I
does the-
answered
why does
all
the
super
left
chats
hate-
immediately?
Oh,
That's
okay,
what I
I'm
do.
sorry.
Why does the left hate hot women? That's what I want to know. Why do they hate hot women?
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't.
The
They
left
don't.
They
does
do.
not hate hot women.
They do. They
No, they
absolutely do.
don't.
Bro, they do. I unless you're like, like I don't know, a minority or like some crazy exotic alt chick, they hate you. Like that straight up they do. Like
Most of Hollywood and celebrities are liberal and left leaning. Like,
not
what are you
anymore.
talking about?
Not anymore. It's
What do you
changing.
mean? What do you mean?
Times are
You
changing.
think?
So hold on.
You think most of Hollywood
Hold on.
is conservative
Hold on,
now?
You did this.
You're
non-con.
close.
You did this.
You're close. What you are doing right now is you are shooting at the target, but you are missing the middle of the target.
Nah.
You're clipping them. Let me tell you what's
They
going
just hate
on.
hot women.
Hollywood, the left does not hate hot women. The left loves hot women. The left is more degenerate than the right in many, many ways. So of course they love hot women. But here's the difference is that the left, specifically when you were talking about white people in America or white women in America, they have a sense of beauty that is subversive or anti-aesthetic, at least in one domain, not in all domains. When you look at who they champion people that are traditionally hot,
No, they don't.
but intentionally make themselves anti-hot in some degree. So they love people like Chappelle Rowan, or they love people like
What?
What? No,
what's
they
that
love
other
people
blonde
like
chick that makes
Lizzo.
all
They'll
that
tell you Lizzo's a baddie,
feminist-
bro, and then like Lizzo looks like me with a dress.
Listen, yes, because they haven't, because they believe in this
Scott's point.
retarded myth of equality, right? They can't.
Well, I
they
agree with you on
difficulty
that.
differentiating between
Okay.
beautiful and
They
not
don't-
beautiful.
yeah, so
And
it's
they
just like
can't
it's just like when
openly
people see
say
they don't see
Lizzo
color.
is an ugly,
They don't see
fat
over. They
fuck
don't see
that's
fat.
disgusting, and there's nothing beautiful about her, right?
Oh God.
But they can't
Whenever you
like
think-
it's because it's just a
I
fact.
Whenever
just
you
started
ever
telling
think that
these women
Scott's real, if you ever have that idea in your head, he will correct you. Very
Listen, every time a
quickly.
woman says Lizzo's beautiful, I just call
No,
them Lizzo.
no. I just. What happens is
And
I
watch the
say
fallout.
so many rational, reasonable things that
Yeah.
you pick up on it, and you're like, "Wow, he's being reasonable." And then I hit something that goes against your programming, and then
Yeah,
you
sure.
shock yourself
Okay.
back to
Yeah,
irrationality.
Yeah, it's my program.
Like this,
Yeah.
because you're literally
Yeah,
saying
all the
right
pop
now
stars
that
people
I'm
on the
that
left,
I'm
right?
being irrational and unreasonable by saying that Lizzo is ugly, and we
There you
all know
go,
it.
right?
But I'm
Right?
the brainwashed one.
Sure. Hey, what about Beyonce?
Beyonce is
Beyonce's
hot,
f-
I want to know about Chappelle
Beyonce's
Rowan. I want to know
fucking-
why the Chappelle
Uh-oh.
Rowan.
but
no,
she's
I
a
don't think
murderer.
it's
She killed all these people.
Okay. Yeah.
I really don't want to
anyway.
be mean, but like she does like look like she smells bad, if that
Who?
makes sense.
She looks like
That's
she
Chappelle
looks like
Roan.
she's into
Oh, I
the
was just saying, Sydney
lifestyle
Sweeney
and
looks like she
smells
smells
bad.
great.
I thought you were talking about Beyonce.
But
like,
if
I don't know what
you
said.
gave her
No.
normal fucking makeup and put her in normal fucking clothes, she would be a traditionally attractive, not
Yeah.
like super hot, but a
She's,
traditionally attractive woman.
She's like a.
The same thing is true.
I
of
believe
what's that
it-
feminist
my
blonde lady
understanding-
pop star?
She's a
What's-
You have to be more
clearly-
specific than that.
Yeah.
And like,
Or the one,
Hood,
like one of the most famous ones right now. And she just
Sabrina
put out an
Carpenter?
album where like she was like Sabrina Carpenter. Thank you.
She's
Right, like
mids.
Sabrina Carpenter is hot,
No,
but she wears makeup that intentionally makes her less attractive.
I
She wears, like,
disagree.
a drag
you have that
style
backwards.
makeup
You have that
that's
backwards.
over the top.
And
Nah.
more than the case, like Sabrina Carpenter is a horrible example because on the left, right, there's a lot of dumbass discourse saying how horrible she is for
Yeah.
over-sexualizing herself.
I think
Right,
you're wrong
like-
on this one,
Brother,
Fabian. with
no,
Sabrina,
no,
Sabrina
no, no,
Carpenter,
no.
you're
You can't
specifically
use
wrong
the
about
fact
that.
that the left is a philosophy of contradiction and constant.
No, but hold on.
infighting
You're just
is
making
always
shit
proof
up.
that the
No, but
left
you're-
doesn't
you're
believe in things.
Random shit
No,
out.
you're
We
wrong
got a
about this
ton
one,
of- Okay, whatever.
I'm not
No, you're
making shit
wrong
up.
about
I'm not
Sabrina
pulling random
Carpenter.
shit out.
Oh,
You
hold on,
are.
hold on.
You're
You're
the one
actually-
trying to subvert the
Hold on,
argument by
Fabian.
being
You're
like,
actually-
but aren't there tankies?
No, hold on. You're actually wrong about Sabrina Carpenter. Like, if anything,
Aren't
like,
there rad films?
no, hold on. With Sabrina Carpenter, like, she she's attractive, right? I don't think she's Sydney Sweeney hot.
crazy
Now,
hot.
maybe that's preference, but Sabrina Carpenter is attractive. However, she's like hot, like
Is
you
she?
would find at like a bar. Like, oh, this is like the hottest girl in your city kind of hot, not like
No, that's
model.
Sabrina Carpenter.
No, yeah, that's Sabrina
Not-
Carpenter.
not
That's who I'm
her.
talking. Yeah, Sabrina Carpenter, right? And when you say she wears makeup that tones her down, I disagree. I think she wears the makeup and the
Bad,
outfits
actually.
that complement her like quite a bit and make her look more attractive than she would be like naturally. Because when you see her in natural stuff, like she's not
but
ugly.
Hold
on.
on.
Last thing.
You predominantly date the women that have the craziest makeup, which is Latinas. All right. So
That's-
from the white man's perspective, Sabrina
I have
Carpenter's
the-
makeup is too much.
No,
Look at
from,
his, like,
from my opinion, listen. So
Look at
what
my
you're saying.
facts I'm dropping.
What you're
No,
saying
like, they
is,
don't wear lip liner.
You're nonsense
fucking-
broad
like,
generalizations. You're like, hey, I don't find this woman attractive. And then this woman.
Oh, I'm
seems
sorry.
to have
Is it
a
fucking
vague
2014 again?
following on the
And you have to
left.
hashtag not
no,
all me right now?
just to be
Yeah,
clear,
whatever,
I am an
whatever.
equal
So, like,
opportunist dater. I date all women of
Hashtag
all
not all.
races.
Ooh,
I like all-
generalizations.
The key quality is they have to be toxic for me to date them, not what the race is. That's the key quality. Hot and toxic. That's my the qualities.
Fair enough. We like to.
But so I'm an expert on what the
Like,
makeup.
he just,
If is what I'm
Scott just
saying.
like makes like broad generalizations, points to people he doesn't like and say, well, the left likes them. And so this must mean I've made a deep analysis, right, of how the left operates, of how beauty standards exist on the left. It's crazy. It's complete nonsense. It's bullshit.
This is the most Reddit energy midwit dumb shit I've ever heard.
Sure, okay.
Where you can't actually deal with an argument other than to just be like, actually
Your
hashtag not all.
argument is like,
actually there's outliers that exist. That's how every Prime guys, stop trying to stop. You made your argument, and now you're just trying to argue over my argument. So here we go.
I'm waiting for you to make your argument.
This is how all of sociology works. If you are going to talk about trends in society and culture, you are talking about generalizations. Okay, it is not a look at every individual opinion. You're saying nonsense right now.
We're doing science now. Everyone, Corey, you missed it. See, we're doing science now. See, I didn't realize we're doing science. Okay, right? So he's going to do science. He's going to show me his data. All right.
When did I argue that sociology was a science? At best,
I think Tate McRae is pretty attractive.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to put out a
nothing,
paper,
buddy.
Right? Sociology.
You got nothing but being offended.
Sociology. Sociology is
cry baby bitch right now. That's all you're being right now.
Okay, whatever, dude. I don't know what's going on with you, Scott. I need you to pull it back, calm down, right? In any case,
my diet is better. I'm healthier, and I have the fire. I'm cooking.
All he's doing is say, I don't like her. She doesn't align with my values as well, right? Which means she must be alive.
Literally not saying that at all.
They must that's exactly what you said. I just boiled down your argument.
Literally never even said those words. You're just straw manning because you're
I didn't say you said those words. I said I boiled down your argument.
You literally just said all you're saying is this, and it's things I never argued.
Don't pretend like you don't understand. Right?
You're trying to show off,
No, I do understand, and I'm showing that you're full of shit, and that it's a straw man, and that you can't deal with my argument.
You were totally bullshit.
You're running like a coward.
Watch out. I would literally nothing behind. I say, oh, okay. Well, if you've got something here, well, show me data. Of course I don't have any data. Why would I have any data, right? Why would you ask that of me, right? I'm just going to make these broad statements. You're going to have to accept them, right? And there's nothing you can do to say otherwise because it's completely unfalsifiable. Oh, okay, great.
You could make a counter argument. It's not an unfalsifiable claim because you could also show data if you had data to the opposite. That's just another bullshit thing that you've said.
I don't have to disprove your claim. You have to prove your claim.
Would Superman join ICE?
That's not how arguments work. I gave evidence for my argument. I didn't give empirical evidence. I made an argument about what the philosophy of the left entails. Now you can make a counter argument that says, actually, I believe this, and here's what's going on. But instead, all you've done is said generalization and straw man. So make a fucking counter argument.
Just like you, I can say, well, I think you're projecting. This actually exists on the right. The women on Fox News all look the same, right? Have the exact same look, a hideous look, right? And this is something that they hide their femininity under pounds of makeup, right? And oil their legs to try to make up for it. But this is what the conservatives ingest, right? Not actual femininity, not actual expression of who these women are, right? But just like a really cookie cutter, narrow view of what a woman should be, right? In fact, they always.
I actually completely agree with you, except for the thing where you're saying they're hiding their femininity. I don't. Where do you see like Fox News hosts and women that are blonde with specific makeup that is designed to accentuate their natural features and try and age not so gracefully? I do agree that they're carbon copies and that they have a limited view of aesthetics, that the left has a much more broad and open view of aesthetics, traditionally speaking as well. But I think you're adding a little bit of bullshit here by saying that they're subverting beauty in it, or that they're anti-aesthetics in the same way that I'm claiming on the left.
Matter of taste, right? Well, so this part might be just a matter of taste, but like it seems
right. You're not going to see a conservative host wear a meat dress, right? Like there's a certain shock.
Hold on, I would absolutely wear a meat dress.
To subvert traditional expectations of beauty that occurs on the left.
That's not what I meant.
I would wear a meat dress. For the record, because beef, it's what's for dinner.
You're out the door. You eat the dress. Okay, great. So, it just might be a matter of taste. I'm saying that like their natural femininity, for whatever that's worth, right? That like they have the same hairstyles. Oftentimes dye their hair. They cover some pounds of makeup with a filler, right? There's a very pronounced aesthetic right? And there's like a bunch of think
Mhm.
pieces on this. Like
No, I agree. I just
Right.
don't think it's anti-aesthetic, right? Like you're making a claim that they have a specific aesthetic that is limited in range, that you think that there could be more expression of beauty on the right, but because
Okay.
they put themselves in such a small, limited box and they have these carbon copies where they all look like the same blonde woman that had the exact same plastic surgery and does the exact same fucking makeup. I agree, but I don't think that is an anti-aesthetic. Right. What I am saying is that the
I don't know
left
what's going on.
engages
Sorry.
in anti-sex. Like we could look at the recent the girl that plays Wednesday, right? Like it's very obvious she had work done. A lot of people are claiming she didn't. It's very obvious she did, but she intentionally lightened her eyebrows, and even if she didn't get cheek implants and didn't get buccal fat removal surgery, which she very obviously did, but we assume it's all just a trick with makeup. She has intentionally created an aesthetic that is masculine, that is domineering, that is creepy, and everyone on the left is celebrating that she's serving cunt, right? And what I'm saying is that some of the beauty standards on the left are an anti-aesthetic, that they find beauty in the rejection of traditional beauty because it rejects because it's rebellious in its nature, and they find some level of beauty in that rebellion. That doesn't exist on the right. And what I'm trying to explain to Gibbs, because he made the claim, why does the left hate hot women?
They just
Is
hate
that they
them.
don't hate hot women, but that they have an aesthetic that is different than the traditional standard of beauty, but it is subversive in one domain or the other, where you have beautiful women that then adopt aesthetics that are antithetical to what might be the traditional beauty route,
Translation.
which you're kind of describing the Fox News doing, and it's subversion of it.
Yeah, but translation, everything you just said could have been summed up like this. The left hates hot women. That's really that simple. Like, everything you just said, like, that's all it comes down to. Like,
Fucking Gibbs. Gibbs. Oh, it's like two ends of the IQ distribution meme
I'm
with these
just,
fucking arguments.
I mean,
It's like,
listen, you can say a lot of words when it comes down to that's the bottom line, you know?
but that's not really what I'm saying,
One
right?
sec-
I'm
one
saying
second,
you're
please,
off.
please.
I said you're hitting the target, but you're off
1 second.
from the center.
guys. Hey, audience members, am I still muted? Something's going on. I don't know.
No, I
it
checked
was
your
the,
stream. Everything was. I heard you coming
People
through the
said
stream.
that I'm muted. Maybe on Twitch, maybe. But the people on Twitch are saying that I'm muted.
Here, let me look. I'll look.
Yeah. Am I muted, guys? Testing.
No, I can
No, I
see
checked
I
your
just
stream.
unmuted
Everything was.
your Twitch,
I heard
People
you coming
said
through the
that
stream.
I'm muted maybe on Twitch, maybe. But the people on Twitch are saying that I'm muted.
capture.
No, you're not muted.
Mine was muted. The second quarter GDP under. Okay. So it sounds like I'm good now. Yeah. Apparently I was muted for a long time here, but like my audio inputs say everything is fine. So I created a new audio input. Hopefully that solves it. My PC was having trouble before. It was getting really hot. I blew some compressed air into it and got some dust out. So like it's not hot anymore like it was before. I was hoping that would solve that problem completely, but maybe there's another issue on top of it. So hopefully,
What is
this
happening?
comes out.
When I went to watch your video, I did see like almost half of it was like muted. I had to give
my
Lactoid a
God.
view. It was horrible.
Ooh, yikes!
Yeah. Oh,
Don't troll people's audio, man.
yeah.
That's the one thing. No, listen, if we can all come together as streamers on one thing, it's please don't troll streamers about the audio issues that they may or may not be having,
I'm
because they
not trolling.
can't hear it, and then it fucking it's like it's the most anxiety inducing thing ever when like one or two people in your audience are like, hey, your audio's fucked up, and then you're trying to figure it out and you can't figure it out because there's nothing wrong with it, and you're like, is it peaking? Like, what's happening? Please stop doing that, guys. Or if you really hate someone, I guess do it, and I just gave you a weapon, and I'm sorry for the evil that I've spread, but people in my chat are going, Mike muted. God damn it.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll hopefully we'll check in. Yeah, like, but non-fine. Yeah, I was just saying that people were having trouble previously. I don't know what to do. So hopefully this solves it. I created a brand new audio input. But we'll find out.
Hold on. Did I just find the perfect way to get Thor to crash out?
Oh, sure.
Because that dude is obsessed with his audio. Like, if you just go to Thor's stream with a new account and be like, oh, your audio's peaking. Your bass levels are off. Don't actually accuse him of intentionally lowering his voice because he didn't go through his second puberty at 33 years old and his voice magically changed. Don't say that. Just say that he's peaking or that his mic is muted and see what happens. I'm also not condoning a harassment campaign against Thor. Please understand that I'm only joking about it, and that he has very active moderators, and you'll be banned very quickly if you do this.
Is there like audio of him like without filters, like anywhere else out in the world?
Yeah, there's tons of him with a
Yeah,
high pitched,
yeah.
like Reddit voice.
Okay, wow.
But he
All
says
right,
he went through a second puberty at 33, and now his voice is different.
Is that something to brag
And
about?
now he talks like this.
Okay, all right. And yeah, he does it in a very like specific cadence to be taken seriously when he's just like making shit up.
Did you see that Meat Canyon video on him?
No.
Meat Canyon did a video of Thor being unable to take accountability for anything, and then in the end, he turned into an Ouroboros of putting his foot in his mouth. Don't bring up Meat Canyon videos on stream, for the record. Just throwing that out there. He toes the line of T.O. His videos are disturbing, but it is a funny video. You should watch on your own.
Okay. All right. All right. Well. All right. All right. So, sorry everyone, and I really do apologize for the audio issues previously. I don't know what was going on, honestly, but I still don't know what's going on. But hopefully, I solved it. So yeah, like I said, there's only one other person who might be making it a little later on. But it'll be a little later on. So
did one person bail or something? Unless I miscounted something.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So,
yeah,
that's too bad.
So if you guys, it's up to you guys. You guys want to jump straight into the topic, or okay. Sorry. Do you want to say something?
I was going to ask a question, but it's going to rehash actually last week, so probably not a good idea.
You could say it. We could decide.
I wasn't here, so fuck it. Like whatever. Like we have time, dude.
Well, so Lactoid was trying to make the case for degeneracy last time.
Amen.
Okay? And I'm curious.
Degeneracy, huh?
To make the case against degeneracy.
Okay.
I was about to say, I was like, because that's
but he was taking
definition. It's like so contradictory.
But he was taking Gibbs to task because Gibbs buys a certain type of soap. Okay?
He was trying.
The Sydney Sweeney porn soap is what
it's fantastic.
I'm curious, Lactoid. I'm curious. If you had a child, let's say a son, and they wanted to buy soap, would you stop them? And that specific soap, or rather, how would you stop them?
It's amazing.
The Sydney Sweeney porn soap.
Yeah,
it's bathwater soap.
It's amazing that to see libertarians against capitalism.
Yeah.
How is that porn?
How old? How old?
That's weird.
Shut up. How old is the child?
They're 17. They just got their first credit card.
17. Can you get us a credit card at 17? Okay, I don't know.
Your parents will give you a credit card.
Yeah.
All right. I'm not having a fucking credit. I'm not gonna give a fucking kid a credit card. Are you kidding me? But here's what I'm gonna do. This is what I would do whenever I would have a child that would do a disciplining decision that would make a life choice fundamentally at odds with a beneficial future for them or my family name. I would sit them down and I would explain to them the error of their ways.
Change their name?
I would explain to them. Well, I mean, we can have that conversation if truly the soap is a sticking point, right? If there's no way around it, that might be a requirement, depending on how the conversation goes. But we're gonna have the conversation.
Not apparent fucking thing I've ever.
We're gonna have I'm coming at it very rationally and calm at first, okay? And I'm gonna at first, and then we're gonna depending on the response, and I'm gonna explain why they can't have the soap. And if I continue to get pushback or snarky vibes.
As in, let's role play. Like, Dad, why can't I buy the soap? How are you going to answer that question?
Well, son, because we live in a country that has a certain level
society.
we live in a country that has a certain level of decorum and an expectation of self-respect and dignity. And when you engage in behavior that fundamentally undermines that, you might have the right to do that, okay? But it doesn't, it doesn't reflect well on me as a parent. Because other parents, other people, they're going to know that I raised a son that buys the porn soap. and I can't have that happening to me. It's just, and then look, if they want to say, "Well, fuck you, Dad, I'm leaving," okay.
Okay, but then if they ask what's the harm, what would be your answer?
The dramatic and justified social stigma that I will incur if I have a child that buys the porn soap, and the lowered quality of life, the lower quality of life.
Are you serious right now?
And
I'm
he hates capitalism.
I'm actually like I'm memeing when I'm talking about like kicking them out and like maybe forcing them to not have my last name. But I'm not actually memeing in the sense that I would sit them down and explain like why this is like a bad thing for them to do.
So what do you do when they
like,
ask you why you hate capitalism?
Giving into this is and I would say this about tobacco and alcohol as well.
What do you say when they say you hate capitalism?
Can I give
and then if your son, okay, assuming circumstances are still the same, they say, but Dad, you ride a motorcycle. I think that's dangerous, and there's actual harm in that. Why? How is that?
No, they're going to be involved in that culture,
stop
so they're not going to know
motorcycle?
He really cares.
Actually,
do you think it's like? Do you think it's?
This is like dick watching at this point. The amount of times you bring up the motorcycle. All right, here's the real answer from someone that's against degeneracy and the only father on this panel. All right, it's real fucking simple. I stopped buying Dr. Squatch soap because I don't want to support a company that supports degeneracy. Number one, I buy farmers market soap. I buy Duke Cannon. Right, I buy high quality soap because I don't want to put like a bunch of fucked up shit on my skin any more than I want to eat a bunch of fucked up shit. Number one, so I stop it. Number two, when I find out my son has bought Dr. Squatch Sydney Sweeney bathwater soap, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be happy because at least he's buying real fucking soap instead of like fucking like Dove body wash shit. Like, yeah, cool. He's taking care of his skin. He's actually.
I'd rather him buy Axe than that shit.
The second, that's
what about Bod? Would you let him buy Bod?
Stop. I'll let him buy whatever he wants. But here's the next thing I'm going to do. The next time I'm cooking dinner, right? Because I'm probably the one cooking because I'm like, I don't imagine there's too many women out there that are better at cooking than I am.
I'm into that.
And that's not an insult to like women or anything. I'm just saying I'm a decent cook. And so the next time I'm cooking dinner, I'm going to grab a pot. I'm going to hand it to him. And he's going to like, what are you doing? And be like, oh, you said you wanted like some pasta. I just didn't know if you wanted to go in the bath water like the simp you are. So you want to go in the bathroom and go get some simp water for your pasta? Oh, you won't eat that? Then why don't you put that shit on your body, you fucking weirdo? And then I'm going to grab it and I'm going to make fun of him. And then I'm going to let it go. You know, I'm going to let it go.
Wait, you put Dawn dish soap in your pasta?
What?
Like, well, this is the analogy making. Oh, you don't want the bathwater soap in your.
You're being retarded right now.
No. This is the comment you just made.
No, Gibbs actually might have
you're not gonna put any soap in your fucking pasta.
No,
bro.
you haven't. No. What it is that someone else's bathwater doesn't belong in your soap. Therefore, someone else's
soap doesn't belong in your pasta at all.
Food.
Well, Fabian said he was a good cook. That would be the reason why. That's the special ingredient.
Okay, let's not fucking kid ourselves.
That's not the point.
He can't tell the difference between cilantro and pepper.
It's a porn motivation. They get off on the idea that it's her bathwater. That's why it's in there.
Why is it a bad motivation?
But no,
because you shouldn't be like spending money on getting off on some woman's fucking bathwater.
Listen,
if he ordered her shit, that would also be fucked up.
Lactoid, it's not even worth a conversation to talk to someone that genuinely believes that there's nothing weird about your son buying some fucking Hollywood slut's bathwater to put on the body.
Make no mistake.
That's weird.
It's not
no mistake.
That's fucking weird and degenerate.
Hold on.
No mistake. That wasn't.
So anything else beyond that is pretending.
Wait, no.
I didn't say that was your position. I'm saying that you're playing devil's advocate for the sake of conversation, and it's silly. What I'm saying, and the second silly thing is sitting your kid down and having a 20-minute conversation about this, because if you actually have kids, you know that berating them like I'm berating you people isn't an effective means of changing their opinion. The way you do it is
I
you
agree with.
deride them, you make fun of them, and then you just move
That
on.
I don't
Because
agree
at the end
with.
of the day, he's gonna buy whatever fucking
Wait,
soap he's gonna fucking
bro.
buy, and you rib him a little bit because it's fucking dumb, and then you let him go be embarrassed for a second, and then you just smile and appreciate the time with your kid and sit down and have dinner and have a good time and
Bro,
let it fuck.
if
go.
what you're
It's not that
saying-
big
if
How
a
am I
what
deal.
supposed to do that when I'm just thinking the whole time this motherfucker has bathwater soap?
Well, why are you thinking about
Yeah,
that? First
well,
of all? Why are you
they
thinking
did
about
Crack
that?
another
Good.
couple jokes.
You just say they should not, but why should they not? There's no actual you can't point to any harm.
I
Corey,
got a
if you
question.
had a kid that ordered pee and drank it in front of you, would you
Well,
be
that's
like,
not what they're
hey,
doing.
man, don't
That's
do
not
that?
what they're doing. Hold on.
I know that's not what they're doing. It's an
But-
analogy.
No, let's just take your analogy to like the level above, right? Where okay, maybe they're not buying soap, right?
Why do
But-
we need to make the analogy?
Hold
work?
on. But let's just take it. Is it weird if you wanted to go buy Troy Polamalu's specially branded hair product that he puts part of his hair grease in, and it's proven to make your hair better?
Yeah.
Oh, is it weird? What if it's proven that it
If
actually?
he's putting his own hair grease in a
hold on.
fucking
But what if
product,
what if it's proven that it actually improves your hair quality?
if you could prove to me that the element of his hair grease improves hair quality to some like
Well, we
substantial
can't prove it
degree
doesn't, but
that
we
you
do know
can't
it
get
improves your
for
hair
a
quality.
cost-effective manner elsewhere.
Okay,
Perhaps
so
I could be moved.
okay, cool.
And also, if you could show me that Sydney Sweeney's bathwater was like especially potent against bacteria, I would have questions.
okay, sure.
But I could then see a
Okay.
justification.
Let's
to
just
get
play this-
Sydney Sweeney.
okay,
Like,
well,
I would be okay with
now-
it.
okay.
Because now there's a non-porn motivation.
Well,
What if
cool.
he's not- what if he's
Hold
telling
on.
you-
I wanna- let me finish this thing real quick,
All right,
and I'll turn it over.
yeah.
I just want. All right, so
We'll get
cool.
you
Now
next round, Tom.
we've got Lactoid figured out. Okay, he's fine if it gives you a direct benefit. All right, cool. So maybe we can talk about what socialist lactoids really are. Yeah. So let's just take a proof. If this guy, the guys that are probably buying Sydney Sweeney's bathwater, fucking soap, they're probably smelly incel pieces of shit, or like me, they love capitalism and they just want based things rewarded. I want
Hold on,
based.
this is a good
hold on,
argument.
hold on.
This might get more
I-
people to use soap that
I
wouldn't
want
have used
right.
soap before.
I want based. What first of all,
Hold on.
Only good
I want
argument.
hot women out there promoting products. I want more hot women in marketing. And if this gets more hot women in marketing, good. Two, these smelly incel fucks need to be using some soap. And if they're fucking using Sydney Sweeney's bathwater, thank you, Sydney Sweeney. I'm tired of smelling these people that smell like fucking. They sit and piss all
I'll need a
day.
meta-analysis. Okay.
I'm
Let's
just saying.
go to non-fun. Well, no, it's a sociological statement, so maybe not. You won't give any data there. Non-fun.
We're getting some WAP with our fucking soap, bro.
So it's the position that like almost like anything bought with like a porn motivation is like degenerate. Like is Sydney Sweeney's bathwater significantly worse than just buying like another type of like personal, sex toy thing? Like
Yeah, I
I
feel
mean,
like if
both
my
would be
kid was
degenerate. What do you mean?
if my kid was ordering sex toys off the
Bonnie
internet, I'd be
Blues.
like, I don't have a problem with that.
Giant.
But I think the reason why this is like
Buy
particularly
the fucking
problematic is
thing.
because it's like it's putting sex, it's like mixing sex in with like parts of your life that really like shouldn't be involved
Soap
with
is
sex.
clean, but she
Like
is dirty.
it's the
and
same.
now it's mixing.
No. It's like the same people that get like the anime butt mouse pads. Like, are you telling me like?
Oh, you don't
You
have
know,
one of those?
if your boss walks over, no, I don't, Gibbs. Okay, if your boss walks over and
He's just
sees it,
not
like
living.
it's not
He's not very fun.
acceptable. Like,
Oh
something
yeah,
you could talk about in the
he lives
workplace.
his life. He lives his life, right? Like assuming the boss is over his shoulder, right? You're a good little subordinate,
Yeah,
right?
it's called
That's
being
like the
employed.
most bootlicker thing. Yeah. Oh, okay, right.
Oh,
like
fuck.
literally,
Oh, fuck.
even in your home, right? What if my dad? Sorry, employer, right? Same thing for
Fucking
you.
home
What
run
if
over
they
there,
came
Lactoid.
and they saw my soap? Oh my god!
No, because then someone's gonna smell me. Okay, someone's gonna smell me. And say, oh, what kind of soap do you use? I can't answer them because it's too fucking weird. And if you
Just
can't
like
answer
why?
somebody, about something like a simple question,
You
like what
can.
kind of cologne? What kind of
You say
cologne do
Pepper's
you use?
Squatch soap.
Oh, the cologne that I
Lactoid.
use.
Here's
I
the
got
problem.
it from this fucking model's
Lactoid.
feet.
Here's the problem
It's
with
like
you, right?
it's alcohol rubbed in a
Lactoid.
model's
I
feet, and then I
might
rub it on my
accept
face
this.
because it gets me off.
I might accept this from
Yeah.
Scott, right? I might accept this exact same argument from Scott, but I have much trouble accepting it from you because you're fucking weird when it comes to sex. We've established this, right?
I
Scott's
am,
against
but I
this
don't.
and
But I
shit.
don't let it
But, like,
bleed into my
Lactoid-
regular life.
You're fucking weird, right? You got like a shit ton of hangups, right? And it's like this like fascination with this soap, right? It's just yet another example.
I'm not
how you
fascinated.
freak-
I'm anti-fascinated.
You freak the fuck out over anything that even touching, right? Like physical intimacy. Like I don't know, man. Get
Fine.
some,
If
therapy
your
there.
kid ordered pee, a sterile pee. Okay, it was tested. It's not going to give your kid like fucking whatever, but it's sterile pee. And he ordered it, and then like he would just drink it every night, and like that's got him off. Okay, would you have a problem with that?
Yes, but I wouldn't compare
Why?
that to.
Why?
Right.
Why? There's no harm.
So wait,
There's
that
no
means
harm.
you have a problem with all of
Riding
China.
a motorcycle is more harmful, isn't it, Prime?
Well, hold on. China
No.
sells pee. China sells pee. You can literally buy UP
Gibbs,
in
no,
gallon
Gibbs knows where to
jugs.
get it.
No.
Of course, Gibbs would know
Gallon
that.
jugs.
I'm
UP
fine.
is the
Gibbs
website.
knows where
I'm
to buy
fine whether-
the urine.
Hey, don't worry about it. All right?
No.
Listen, China
Why-
sells. It's
no,
called
let
UP
me-
is the company.
Gibbs
let
Gibbs
me-
is
let
Gibbs
me
has
ask
this
question.
terrible problem that he has too many Latinas in his house right now that want to engage in piss play.
Listen,
so
don't
he's gotta
worry
have a
about it.
special
We gotta have
reserve
reserves,
fucking
bro.
water guns.
Why do you think
It's
you're
the
drinking all this
drugs.
all the
It's
time?
the drugs.
Lactoid. The problem
Why do you
with
think you're drinking?
isn't
so
that
much?
there'd be no harm done? It might be that because
Oh fuck!
this is
He doesn't go to the bathroom on stream, does he? Interesting.
What I do
Saving
is
up.
we just save it in the
this might
jars.
belie. Hold on. This might, and to be clear, like, would you allow? The one thing I'll depart from Corey is that, like, well, you have more control of your child and what they control, right? Like, if they're 18,
True.
I think that it changes the.
I'm pretty sure
dynamic,
even
right?
at 18, lactose would still have an issue. You still have the conversation. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
it's
I
still-
have an
Like,
issue.
that's-
Yeah, I have an issue.
Sure. So I'll use 18, right? 13. That
Son, what are we doing?
would be a red flag that there might be something else wrong with this kid, right? Now, if there wasn't, but hold on, if there wasn't, now I could somehow prove it, right? Do like a psychological scanner, right? And he's like all normal, just like really into pee, right? Have at it, right? If this is
Well,
not
he's in a
something else,
pee.
then he's
pee,
an
you
adult,
think.
right? Sterile P, yeah, the sterile P. He's an adult, and then he should be allowed to get into whatever he wants, right? He might get into some weird shit, right? Like, hey, son, don't tell me about it. Like, please, we're not that close. But like, play safe, right? Because I care about you and I love you, right? And be careful. That's it. Like, I don't have
This
a
reminds
bad-
me-
I'm not letting my kid
This-
drink pee. It's not happening.
This reminds me of that South Park episode. I know I've already referenced
take.
them once, but
You'd have
they've been
to
making fun of.
against it.
But no, I'm not, dude. I'm a libertarian. All right.
It's okay.
Those
I'm
who
talking to you.
have been-
I'm talking to Lactoid. Talk to Lactoid.
I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure,
I'm
Scott, you
arguing.
would
Oh,
also
yeah.
have a problem if your kid was drinking pee, right? You would agree? You would have a problem with that?
Absolutely. But what I'm saying here with the South Park episode is it reminds me of like when they made fun of the Pokemon game and like the trading card game, because the Japanese were using Pokemon as a psyop to the children to eventually get them to commit a second Pearl Harbor. And the way that the parents were able to, it's South Park, okay? And the way that the
That's
parents were
pretty
able
funny.
to
I
get
didn't
their
know about
kids
that.
to stop being into Pokemon is they started being into Pokemon, and that killed the fad. And like, I understand where you're coming from. I don't want my kid using Sydney Sweeney fucking bath soap water. I don't want my kid fucking being a part of a degenerate culture and buying into it. And at a young age, being taught that, you know, the money that you spend is a moral good, or at least morally ambiguous, to spend on the sexuality of women as products to be bought and sold. I don't want them to view women that
Yes.
way. I don't want them to view their relationships that way. And I don't want them to view sexuality that way. But the worst thing you can do to try and get a kid to stop doing something is have like a long sit down talk with them about it, and really like, well, we're going to be rational about it, because they're not thinking rationally. They're fucking teenagers in the examples that we're giving. And the way that you do it is that you show them that you care, you show them that you love them, that you're not ashamed of them, but you make fun of them a little bit, you rib on them a little bit, you bring it up once or twice, or you say some off comment like, dude, that's kind of gross. And then you let them make and understand their decisions and their failures and things over time. And if they choose to talk to you about stuff like that, or like, dude, why do you feel that way? You wait until that door is open and they want your opinion and they're receptive towards your opinion. But the best thing you can do is just be there for them. It reminds me as well of what is the best way to stop eating disorders. The best way to stop eating, the number one intervention you can do for eating disorders with children is to have meals at the family table. And you go, well, why is that? Is it because you're watching them eat food? That's what they thought initially. They were like, oh, it's because the parents will force them to eat. that is a very small part of it. What the research actually bore out was that the reason that's so effective is because eating disorders are actually just a symptom of underlying problems and trauma or stress and the inability to have control over their life. And one of the few things they can control is what they eat. That's where anorexia comes from. It's taking back control of your life, and then body dysmorphia as other things. And the way that the eating at the table works is that now there's a forced opportunity to have conversations about the problems that are occurring, to have conversations about certain things. So like, I know that your heart's in the right place. I'm mostly saying that your method of getting rid of degeneracy is one that is likely to just isolate your children and to push them away, as opposed to fostering the kind of relationship that would allow you to be able to impart your values and your wisdom on your kids.
Look, I'll bring it up at the dinner table, and we'll have dinner every day together, and I'll talk shit about this fucking degeneracy, and we'll be good.
I'm just curious if
that's
if
what
you
a simp would say to your kid every time he speaks. Just, oh, I know you don't know who PewDiePie is, but back in my day, he was hilarious.
If your child is embarrassed by a behavior of yours, or they feel it brings shame to them, would you stop that behavior?
No, they're subordinate to me. They're children.
Oh, okay.
What if you're old though, and you're doing shit that's shameful to the whole family? But like you're old and they're older than them.
And I created them. Well, they owe me, motherfucker. Like,
Oh,
come on, like they're really gonna be pissed at me.
That seems wishy-washy. Like, I mean, so like, say
It's
you're
not
like
wishy-washy. They owe me their existence.
Yeah, so what? They owe you nothing.
It means so what?
Like the right answer. The right answer is
if I want to
depends on
shit in
your
my adult
values,
diaper,
right?
and
If what you're doing is incredibly important and you value it highly, then it's worth embarrassing other people. But you have to do that risk reward analysis and determine whether or not it is that valuable. Maybe it's a tradition you're hanging on to that needs to go, and everyone in your family is signaling that thing needs to go.
Being
Or
afraid
maybe
of
it's
Sydney
really
Sweeney's
important.
bathwater. That's a tradition needs to go. You're sitting here holding on to this.
Is that a tradition now?
Yeah, because he's over here preaching socialism. He hates it when women use their bodies in a
bathwater do
capitalist
they
way.
stock up on
What? No,
so that years in the future this is still a thing?
I just
and
want to.
there's a tradition.
I remember the
hating
Great
on it.
Depression. Remember the Great Depression when the supplies of Sydney Sweeney bathwater.
I just
ran
want to know
low.
how you
That was
argue
so-
this,
that
and
was
you
awful.
Finally, we were able to clone Sydney Sweeney and resupply our stock
What's crazy
of
to
Sydney
me
Sweeney bathwater.
is that like Lactoid is sitting here claiming to be a libertarian, and then sits here and bitches about people being ultra capitalist. Like, this is what capitalism without
That's what
rules
capitalism
looks
means.
like. It is, yeah. It's means
brother,
we gotta
that's
embrace the
not-
free market,
listen,
bro.
Hold on. Admiral Gibbs, I know that you're mean.
Buying things is capitalism.
Because you've had enough conversations with Lactoid and enough conversations with me to know.
Well,
that's
Lactoid
simply
started off
not
as a takey, so
anti-libertarian.
Lactoid started off as a takey. I'm just thinking he's going
Yeah,
back
you're
to
just
his
memeing.
controlling
You're-
roots.
I know you're memeing, but in all honesty,
That sounds like something a takey would say.
That just because something is profitable doesn't make it moral, and that libertarianism is not saying that everything that is profitable is automatically
Well,
moral.
I talked to somebody that claimed to be a communist libertarian the other day. So, I mean,
Okay, well, that's a contradiction in terms. So you should call them back up and say they're retarded, and then you should hang up.
well, I mean,
Just call them. Just
I'm
straight
saying
up
that right
Discord
now.
call them.
I'm
They're like,
I'm
oh, thanks for calling me. And be like, you're retarded.
Well,
Scott
that's
said so,
what.
and
But
then hang up.
Scott, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm saying that socialist libertarian Lactoid right now is being retarded. Like this is the retarded bad take. He should embrace Sydney Sweeney's bagunzas, making fucking money off of them. That's what I'm saying.
I want to ask a quick question. Non-fun. Would you be okay with tariffs on Sydney Sweeney's bathwater?
Probably not. I mean, to the extent that, like, if you were able to convince me that they were like actually a negative externality, that they actually had some type of societal harm,
Isn't that domestic
then
manufacturing?
I guess you could tax them. Like,
Yeah. He's not America first.
Wait,
He's not America first.
you don't think the expanded sexualization of the young male American mind and this dramatic increase in spending on pornography from young men, you don't think this is like a problem? That's money that they could be using to
I
buy
think that-
housing or
Sure, I think that probably is a problem. I think that's probably mostly to do with the internet. I doubt I think the Sydney Sweeney stuff was enabled by the internet, right? Like all the gooners on the internet are people who
Yeah,
are
it's
buying
a fucking
it. So
chicken egg
I don't know how I
scenario.
would. I don't know how to
Yeah,
fix
hold on.
that. I
It's
guess
so
I don't think
weird
cities.
to say that.
Well, we,
like,
we could tariff
oh,
OnlyFans as well.
It could
Right.
be. It could be. They could be
You
using
could
that for
definitely.
housing, right? They could have used it that money to buy a house, right? It seems like you don't understand the housing market and why so many people are being deprived, right? If you think that, the difference between that is a few gooder habits, that's the thing that keeps people from not being able to reach home ownership, right?
It contributes.
I'm loving-
there
hold on,
would
I'm-
be
I'm
there
loving-
would be more.
I'm loving how
There
Prime
will be more.
Guys is accidentally stumbling into why pure consequentialism or utilitarianism is just retarded, because you can just run the analysis based off of your own subjective bias in any direction. I appreciate that you're coming to that conclusion, that yes, you can take
Something like
any
that.
action or behavior and then draw 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon and then make that behavior either moral or immoral. And then it's just a nonsense philosophy in terms of judging morality.
Well, yeah, morality
obviously
doesn't exist.
You could have like
I'm glad I've
confidence
made you proud.
intervals, right? And as you get further, like second and third order
I
consequences.
guess I'm wrong. I
like,
thought you were noticing something, but you weren't. My bad.
Sure. Lactoid.
Later date.
Yeah, lactoid.
Never forget lactoid.
I mean, again,
no,
like
he
it's
was-
just like what are your attitudes towards sex, right? Like, what makes you squeamish? It's like there are. I think that most people can come to some reasonable consensus on these things, right? I think a lot of people, while they may not be interested in the product of the bathwater, I'm not interested in the product. Like that's it's dumb.
Good.
I like.
Thank you.
My problem is
Thank
that
you.
it's a stupid thing. But not because it's disgusting, right? Like completely different. Just
Why do
not
you think it's
something for
stupid?
me. One, because I don't see the value in there, right? Like I don't. It doesn't have any like utility for me, and it doesn't have any psychic value for me. But it could have for someone else, right? And if they have it, then that's fine, right? It's a thing that doesn't hurt anyone else. It's a personal choice, right? I'm for personal freedom here. I stand alone apparently. But
Amen.
yeah, like yeah, I'm sorry, Admiral Gibbs.
What about
first,
my personal freedom to shame you for drinking pee?
You
You
always-
sound like a
you always
bitch at that
have
point.
option. Yeah, you always have that option, right? Like within our society, to shame others if you like, right? But I think the things that you are really concerned about,
That sounds like
right?
hate
It
speech.
wasn't really
Prime
the
Guys.
piece. Like, the thing that you focus on continuously, right, is when it gets to sex, right? When it comes to women, these are things that bother you like a lot, right? And I'm saying,
Women
rather
bother me,
than
usually.
Well, this is all
generalizing
boy
them,
behavior that we're worried about.
we're
We're talking about millions of boys and one woman. This isn't him being bothered by women. This is him being bothered by the
my friend,
choices of men
Scott,
that is discussing an
I'm not-
objectification of
Scott,
women.
This is just an example.
This is a very feminist
one
take by
example-
him. I don't understand why you're
one
saying this.
example and a long line of specifically relaxed.
I like to listen to the women. I like to
A
listen
long
to them.
line of sex negative feminism? Is that what you're saying?
He-
Is that
well,
you're
I mean, he
against
talked
sex
about
negative
still-
feminists?
No. He talked about stealing women's content last week, right? Like he was like, they created some they created a work product with the sweat of their own brow, right? And Lactoid saying, well, we should be stealing that.
That is not what I said. That is not what I
That's exactly
said.
what you said. You said steal
No.
their content.
No,
100% you said that.
No,
Yes, you did.
no,
Yes,
no,
you did.
no,
Yes, you did.
no.
Yes, you
I
did.
said
Yes,
there
you
were
did.
free
I don't believe in
alternatives.
IP. Let's steal content, but that doesn't make me or Lactoid not a sex negative feminist, okay? And you need to respect us in our fight against the patriarchy.
Okay.
What you'll need to do is just get more sex positive, bro.
What
That's
the
secret.
fuck are you drinking out of? You
Oh,
fucking
it's
what the fuck?
it's a bong bikini drinking thing.
Drink a cup?
Yeah, it's a
I
cup.
think it looks like
That's
you're
what
drinking
this is
bong
what
water
porn
right
does
now.
to the American mind, right? You can't even
How
remember what it's
based is
called.
He's
this?
drinking bong water on
I can
stream.
no, I can literally smoke because it goes underneath it. So it's underneath it. It's cooled by
It's
the
got a
cold
separate
drink.
chamber underneath.
Yeah, just like anyway, listen. The
Oh,
point
so
is,
it's like it's like an ice bong or a
But-
percolator.
but I can have my
or
drink in
something
here
similar.
and drink it, and it melts the ice, so it keeps the whole
That's
drink
okay.
cool.
I'm not okay. Listen, retarded design in terms of aesthetics, kind of a genius idea.
It was
Put
also
a
only
cold
$5,
drink.
so I thought it was
The-
pertinent.
There's a
Chamber.
lot of there's a lot of mugs out there that are mixes of bongs and cups and mugs and stuff. It's very
Yeah, I mean, I also thought it was pertinent
Lactoid would have
since
an
we
idea
love
about
we
this.
love bikinis here, bro.
I haven't
Yeah, I
smoked
mean, there's
weed
some
in,
there's
like,
some
almost a
things that he
decade at this
accepts, other
point.
things he doesn't. But anyway, Lactoid. like to. If you want to final word on this, then we can move on.
Yeah, in all seriousness, I know there's memes about this. In all seriousness, I think that there is perhaps a symptom that's kind of occurring here. Maybe not necessarily a cause, but I think that when you have a society in which men are clamoring to buy bathwater soap because of the
Wonderful
kind of
society.
sexual nature of it, it's probably not a good. I want men to have more self-esteem in how they approach people. So
You know how they get
appreciate
that self-esteem, Laxoid?
You-
By getting laid. That's how.
Buying
And
Sydney's
if they have the
yeah,
Sydney,
oh yeah. You think the people who buy that bath fucking soap, you think they're disproportionately?
well, I'll
get
tell
laid?
you what.
Yeah,
I bet the
all right,
percentage of likelihood of getting laid goes up way more after they use the Sydney Sweeney bath soap. After they have
I
it,
doubt it. I
after
doubt
they
it.
have
I
it
doubt
bathed in
Like,
fucking umpteen million months.
Can we just hold on?
Like
real
y'all
quick,
haven't been to
can we
very many
just-
conventions
can we-
apparently, because these
can we
fuckers
just-
smell like refried ass, and I'm so
Can we
glad
just
that
admit-
she's out here fucking selling this shit. Because some of these guys need to know what the
fair
pits
enough.
are for.
Some dudes need soap. I'm with you, and I don't really kind of care how the soap gets to them. If it's slightly tainted, it's an improvement. But that's not to say it's good. It's just better than what they had before. But can we just admit that the whole Sydney Sweeney bathwater soap thing was just rehashing
Belle
Belle
Delphine.
Delphine?
Also
Like,
a base capitalist.
There's this lie that it's like, oh, isn't it just like there's this lie that it's like, oh, it's just bathwater, it's kind of a joke, whatever. And it's like it's very clearly connected to deep sexuality of porn, right? It's not like Hollywood actress. It's not isolated because it's a fucking wink and a nod
We're
to
way
people
call it
buying Belle
porn, but
Delphine's
fine,
bathwater.
Fine. I just want to move on. I disagree, but like I just want.
I'm not saying it's porn in and of itself. I'm
Belle
saying that
Delphine
it
is
a
also
wink and
base as
nod
fuck
to
for
that
the record.
degeneracy.
Big fan of Belle Delphine. Big fan.
Yeah, another capitalist. But
Big fan.
let's move on. Yeah, you guys.
She is a
about to-
pioneer. I'll have to give her that. I'm not a fan, but I get it.
But plus, have you seen her raps lately? They
Oh
are
my God, please.
hilarious.
Let's move past this.
Belle
Haven't
Delphine
seen
is
them.
rapping now.
Oh yeah, they're like
I know,
they're like shit talk rap. They're really funny. They're
We're
like
moving on, Prime.
they're
It's happening
comedy.
in a second.
Oh my God. All right. So let's just get started. Hey everyone. I hope you enjoyed whatever this was. At the start. Okay. We were just having a good time here, as we usually do when we get started here. So I hope you enjoyed the back and forth. Let's not talk about. Actually, I do want to talk about Sydney Sweeney again one day, but it doesn't have to happen immediately.
And
right?
how overrated she is? Sure.
I just genuinely.
Sydney
wanna-
Sweeney and the 14 words.
I just. Oh my God. I
You
just
see that shit?
genuinely-
She was 14 words and 88 characters. That shit was
that
on
shit was
purpose.
that shit was crazy. But anyway,
I thought it was hilarious.
I just want her in my mind, just generally. It's good for my mental health. But beyond that, I appreciate anyone who's here. Consider supporting the channel. Sub to the channel, give subs. If you have a super chat, consider using. If you want us to react to something, consider using a super chat. It'd be quite helpful to the show. If you sub on Twitch, you'll get added for your viewing. Or consider gifting a sub. If you like the lighthearted banter. But we'll get started with the actual topic. Again, we have one other person, hopefully, will be here soon-ish. We'll just get started before then. Okay. And apologies, we had more, planned, but it fell through. But I think this will be a good group to have a conversation with. All right. Trump has been in office for over half a year, has thrown his political weight around to institute highly consequential economic legislation and executive orders. The three big pillars of his economic agenda so far are the Big Beautiful Bill, Doge, and Liberation Day, aka tariffs. Looking back on this past year, what are your thoughts on Trump's performance? Are we better off now than we were before? Does Trump's past performance fill you with confidence for the rest of his term, or has this all been a disaster? All right. So, we've talked about this plenty before. So if you're not new to the audience, then I'm sure you know. But if you are new, Trump has and other people might disagree at this point, right? I'm curious other people will say something different. But I thought like the beating heart of his economic plan was really the big beautiful bill, right? Like massive changes to the economy, um, uh, and how benefits work and all that. It's a very comprehensive package. Will be consequential, without a doubt. No matter what you may think of it. Doge, which took a hatchet to the federal government, and of course the tariffs, which instituted a on the world in classic Trump dramatic fashion, and has been back and forth, up and down, lowering it along the way. I thought that was the heart of his economic agenda, but again, other people might feel differently. So yeah, um, looking at whatever the accomplishments you think are consequential, are these things good, right? I say consequential, not necessarily good, but just like it will have an impact, of course, right? So whatever you think is impactful, what are your thoughts on that? Does looking at what he's done so far, does it tell you that we're in safe hands? That you expect that reasonably, because you can't tell the future, but you expect that he is a good steward that will be able to navigate us through like the next 3.5 years, or not. So we'll leave it at that. Lactoid, start us off.
Yeah, so I'm going to address the three things that you've kind of put in the prompt, which is the Big Beautiful Bill, Doge, and Liberation Day. Big Beautiful Bill, I generally like, with the exception of, I think, a few negatives. The big one being, I think, increased defense funding and the increased ICE funding, I think, which leads to the increase in the deficit, which is a problem. I think that was pretty inevitable given his hawkish immigration platform, but obviously I wasn't so big of a fan of that. However, some great aspects of the Big Beautiful Bill is that it reduces overall spending and it reduces overall taxes, which is good. We have deductions for tips, we have deductions for overtime. My understanding is that these deductions can be used in conjunction with the standard deduction, which is, I think, big for people in these industries, like who work overtime or in tip industries, which is pretty awesome. And taxes are a moral question as well as an economic question. So it's good to lower them. Also, apparently, a lot of economic data shows that a lot of the taxes, such as corporate taxes, personal income taxes, are particularly bad on growth. So I think it's good for the economy also to remove those taxes or to reduce them, which the Big Beautiful Bill does. Right, it codifies the Trump tax cuts from 2017. Doge, good. Obvious reasons, reducing government spending. It probably should have gone much further. That's the only real criticism I have, is that I think it was kind of under attack from the beginning. So I don't blame them too much for the limited amount they're able to get done. But it should keep going, and it should just be a thing. It's one of the few government agencies that I think should exist going forward. And then the final thing here is Liberation Day. As some of you know, I think tariffs are bad. So I'm not going to support this. If it leads to a consistent reduction of our debt, because I think in June, for example, we had we actually had a surplus because of increased tariffs. It's going to be more mixed than I originally thought, because although tariffs are bad, debt is also bad, right? And so if Trump turns out to be, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but if it turns out to be a budget positive president, you should give him a lot of credit for that, I think. The Epstein stuff, because this is important, is really, really bad. I think that single-handedly lowers his grade significantly. It is a scandal. There is no excuse. He could have potentially gotten away with it a little bit unscathed if he fired Pam Bondi right away, but he hasn't done that. He's actually backed her, which is really sad. People should keep pushing him on this, and we should not forget about this. The Epstein stuff is a travesty. Overall, I would give him I mean, based on as far as presidents go, I'd probably give him a C minus, and then based on my expectations of him, I'd give him a D.
Okay, thanks so much, friend. Scott.
I share a lot of the critiques that Lactoid has. I would obviously give him an F. I mean, there is some argument that in certain aspects, in terms of growing the state, maybe he's slightly better than Biden in that domain. But I mean, the big beautiful bill is anything but beautiful, but it is certainly a big bill that has a whole lot of pork and a whole lot of waste spending in it, and a whole lot of spending increases, which he's hoping to, pay off from the celebration of having the largest tax increases of any modern American president. He is the most anti-capitalistic and most anti-liberty president we've had in quite a long time. I mean, the 702 FISA reauthorization, right? I mean, most people don't talk about that because people are more worried about what the price of eggs are at the grocery store than they are about the fact that, Donald Trump is in love with warrantless wiretaps, even though he claims that he's against it because it was used against him. The Epstein files and the complete betrayal to everything that is moral, not just his own promises, but just to morality in general. Continuing resolutions, funding the government at insane rates and, driving us towards the inevitable collapse of the US dollar if we don't, begin to get rid of these horrible programs like Social Security that have destroyed America. There's not a lot to say other than just Donald Trump, economically speaking, is probably the worst president since FDR. And in terms of social issues, he's middle of the pack. I just can't find myself happy with middle of the pack on social issues and one of the most socialist, authoritarian, and destructive presidents in modern American history. F is not low enough of a score. If it was a tier list, I'd have to make a new category, and in that category would just be like Lincoln, FDR, and Trump.
Don't you only like two presidents or something?
Yeah. But
Andrew Jackson rank. Where would Andrew Jackson rank?
List.
Just out of curiosity, gauging your tier list, rank Andrew Jackson.
Probably C, which would be high compared to most presidents. Horrible president, but I do like his dying words, which are, at least I defeated the banks. Trail of Tears is pretty fucked up, though.
Okay, well, I'm glad you acknowledged that part at least. Thank you, Scott. Let's go to our friend Corey.
Well, I echo the grading that Scott just gave, and I also echo many of the same sentiments, especially the big beautiful bill. I do find it strange, where I understand Lactoid's perspective, which seems to be largely focused on, yes, it reduces overall whatever spending, but then again, he seems to ignore, or not, I would say, undervalue the fact that, yes, I think it's projected to increase the deficit by 3 to 4 trillion, or rather increase the debt by 3 to 4 trillion over time, if you actually believe the estimates, obviously, what they're trying to project. But either way, I think it's pretty clear that it's not good overall in terms of the deficit or the debt long term. And also when it comes to Doge, sure, they found some cuts, but again, put it in context of the overall talking point was they're going to cut 1 trillion or 2 trillion, and they're off by an order of magnitude. I consider that a massive failure. And then with the Liberation Day tariffs, so I guess we'll see how it plays out. But I think it's pretty overall generally understood that over the long term, tariffs will be bad. And it is also interesting, at least in my mind, to note, and also I think Cal Rich noted this last time, of Trump is saying how great the economy is, never had a better economy, and yet he is pressuring the Federal Reserve individual, Jerome Powell, to lower interest rates. And from my understanding, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm definitely not an economist or an expert, but generally speaking, you want to lower interest rates to stimulate the economy. But then if your economy is so great, then why do you want to lower interest rates? There's sort of an inherent contradiction there, at least in my mind. But I'll let hopefully maybe an actual expert correct me. So I think that's at the very least interesting. But I think there's other things to point out in terms of overall long-term economy, where My speculation is just in terms of the overall sentiment in the U.S. And also combined with, I come from it from a science perspective since I'm a scientist. The cuts to research and I think maybe a potential brain drain in the United States. And also the fact that I think you're overall hostile to immigrants. I'm very interested to see how the overall technological advancement when it comes to science and research plays out over the long term. I think we're already seeing it now in terms of China already beats the United States when it comes to cancer research. And I think over time, you're also going to find China overtake US in many other types of research. And I think it's fair to say that science, technology, and development in that area generally is better for the economy. And I think on the long term, the United States will fall short with the current trajectory. And I'll leave it there for now.
Thank you, Corey. But as we all know, you're a fucking socialist. You're not a scientist. Stop cosplaying.
True.
Let's go to our new friend, who I'm a bit unfamiliar.
The two are
with,
not mutually exclusive.
who I'm a bit unfamiliar with, but our friend Gibbs was so kind as to connect us.
Ever heard of
Non-Fon,
Lysenko?
please be so kind as to introduce yourself to myself and the audience, and then your opening statement.
Yeah, I'm Non-Fon, stream on YouTube at Non-Fon, Twitch and Kick, Non-Fon420, liberal streamer, talk about mostly economics. I think that's probably the biggest thing I talk about. I think the three things you mentioned are all pretty bad. So obviously, with regards to the BBB, we're increasing our deficit at a time where we should probably be trying to stabilize the debt to GDP ratio. I still think overall the economy is doing pretty well. I think any of the gains from the tax cuts will be eaten away by the increase in interest rates that the debt expansion causes. That's going to hurt both the private sector's ability to invest, and that's also going to make it cost more money for the government to service our debt, which offset most of the spending cuts that are also in the bill. And of course, I would argue this type of spending cuts that he's doing, like for food stamps and Medicaid, most of those are net bad. I don't like those. When it comes to Doge, I don't think Doge has saved anywhere near enough money to have like a perceptible impact on the economy. But I do think some of the like cuts they've done at the BLS, for instance, those have put like strain on institutions that play an overall positive role in the economy. Probably the same thing with the IRS. And I'm praying that Doge does not touch the Federal Reserve in any meaningful way. With tariffs, I feel like everyone probably knows my opinion on this by now. I feel like that they have very stupid and contradictory goals that are based on fundamental misunderstandings of trade deficits in manufacturing and comparative advantage and economies of scale. I don't think they're likely to achieve most of the goals that Trump at least initially laid out. I think we've already seen them have some negative consequences on manufacturing. And I think all the deals we've gotten, which are really just like non-binding phase one agreements, where like Japan and the UK are saying we're not even going to invest the money that we promised. They all still leave tariffs up on our side. There's probably net bad. And all of those policies, probably especially the tariffs, have caused a lot of uncertainty. And I think that uncertainty is going to drag on investment too. So overall, pretty bad. Probably a D or worse.
Okay, so once again, my audience is saying that I was muted again. So I don't know what's going on. So I created another audio input. Hopefully, people can hear that. Testing. Let me know.
I can hear it.
You can hear it now. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. It really sucked. But and anyone else, please let me know if you're hearing it. So I want to just quickly say that our friend Gibbs, if you know anything about our friend Gibbs, he has a vastly different opinion than anyone else here on this topic. So I wanted to have, like, he was supposed to have backup on this, but unfortunately that fell through. And
I'm assuming because of work.
It's the worst kind of backup, the one that falls.
Well, to be fair, if it's who I think it is, then it's probably because she fucking couldn't get out of she's like a high level exec, so like she probably couldn't get that timing off. Like,
I'm not, to be clear, I'm not blaming her. I'm not blaming her at all. Hopefully we can have
Anna
her in the future.
No, it was my friend Abers. But with that, that's actually a perfect segue into my intro.
One second, I just want to say quickly that like I'll as part of this. One, because my audio is fucked up and I don't know when it's going to cut out again. I'm going to try to stay out of this for the most part, right? It seems like most of we have it. I might say one or two things, but for the most part, I'm going to keep out of it. And yeah, so Gibbs, go ahead.
Yeah, so you're going to see, because I developed my readings and my numbers today based off the assumption I would have a generalist to talk to, but that's okay. I'm pretty confident that I'm going to whoop y'all's ass because y'all are, nobody here is the economic guru, except for maybe Non-Fawn, who at one point could be here in the future, but isn't there yet. We have a lawyer. He's good at the law. You know, he's a nerd. He's really good at reading. He doesn't know anything about economics. Fabian, he's libertarian. He's got good theory about economics, but I'm not going to let him write my policy. Corey's Canadian. You know, that's the problem. So now we're going to sit here and talk about these issues, right? You know, I'm a self-interested asshole, right? And I want you all to know that. And the way I look at things is how it benefits me. And when I'm sitting here and I've been getting fucked for the last 20 years, or actually even since before I was born, for damn near 50 years, since the 70s, I've been getting fucked. I've been getting fucked by the Dems. I've been getting fucked by the Uniparty and the right. I've been getting fucked, just like straight rammed up the ass. All right, did you know that beef numbers are down 6% since 1970. That's a crazy idea since the world population has gone up. In the last 2 years, we've exported and we've created 2 billion less tons from 28 billion tons in 2022 to 26.1 billion tons of beef in the last this year, right? All right, cool. That's great. Fantastic. You know, here's the best part. For the first time in nearly history, as of 4 hours ago, beef is at an all-time record high. I'm taking money and I'm doing this. This is what we're doing. We're just taking it and I'm just going like this. I can light it on fire. I can take a shit with it. It's wonderful. And I would love for everybody else to benefit from this wonderful Trumpian economy, because it's clear that when we've had these unfair trade deals with these countries like the European Union, I know that's a union of many countries, but when we like they're a great example, these unfair trade deals where they're only taking a certain amount of beef, because they don't like our standards or something, and they put some bullshit standard, which is just about to put on there to exclude American beef. There's people like me getting fucked, and I'm tired of getting fucked. And none of y'all have gave us one shit about none of us. And now it's our time to shine. Here's another thing. You know, when Colorado legalized marijuana, the amount of profit they have, they are literally in the red for the first time, or in the black for the first time in ages, because they're sitting here hand over their fists, making money off the taxes of marijuana. You know, I don't like taxes. You know, and I'm not even a moral objectivist like some of these libertarian pussies over here, but I will tell you this. I don't mind a vice tax on something like marijuana if it's going to go towards good things that are going to pay for shit, right? That's okay. That's government. I'd rather a vice tax happen than me getting taxed on my income, because then at least I'm choosing to buy this product that might, quote, have a negative effect on me or a negative effect on other people. But guess what? It's funding all sorts of shit in Colorado. It's doing great. If we legalize marijuana tomorrow and vice tax it, as Trump has indicated he might want to do in the long term, that would be fantastic. Guess what? He just wanted to try decriminalizing it yesterday, and is talking about going into the process further and further on down. It's exciting times here. If you like the economy, everybody's excited. Oil price has been down. Gas was $2.25 outside my house last week. It was about $2.50 over the city. It used to be $3.50. Like, it's crazy. If you look at a year ago what the gas prices were, holy God, you might as well just buy stock in Exxon, because they were making money hand over fist. It's just crazy. It's great now that the American consumer can now afford to get gas, can afford to get eggs, and guess what? Beef is expensive. You know why? Because the demand is going up for beef, because all these people have more money in their pocket. It's fantastic. Texas getting rid of property tax. Texas now are getting rid of income tax. That's great. But you know, this is an example of what the Trump future looks like. We are getting rid of taxes, and these libertarians, if they say that Trump is the Trump economy is bad because it's expanding the government, you know, well, Doge was an answer to that. It's trying to limit government. I had fears as a small government guy, but guess what? Doge is in there cleaning shit out. USAID was clearly a fleece. It's gone now. Wonderful. Some of these other cuts, big fan. You know, you cut shit and then you find out where you need to fix those holes later. What was efficient? It's how it works. It's simple. People say we don't need to run the government like a business. Well, it's about time we did run it like a business for a little while. Big fan. Huge fan. All these things are good. I'm sure we'll get into it more. Can't wait to tell these guys why they're a bunch of fucking idiots.
I just have one question, Gibbs. Based off what I know of your views of the federal government and just whatever government overall, I assume that you are against the indirect subsidies that beef producers get.
Yeah, I don't like the subsidies now. Yeah, not a fan. Okay. Even if, like, so, okay, that's actually a case where it would, like, if I wouldn't applied and got one, it would benefit me to, like in the short term. But, like, I don't think it's good overall for the beef industry to have that. So like it's like, yeah, I would maybe do it if it's the only way I could compete. But like I would try like to do everything first to be, able to make money and be productive without doing that before I ever applied, because I don't think that's going to be long term effect, and I don't want to have to rely on them to make a profit. Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
I appreciate the consistency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Well, then we all agree.
Yeah,
beef and weed. I mean, if you're going to make an argument, it makes actually kind of good sense. I'm kind of sold.
Yeah, come on. Who doesn't
You
like
actually think
capitalism?
he's going to decriminalize weed?
I mean, he's trying to. He was pretty
No,
light on weed.
it might happen.
He was pretty light on weed in his first presidency, and he's like always been pretty whatever. And I think that so Texas, I'm gonna use Texas again. Dan Patrick just came out with this huge bill, and he pushed it, and he wanted it to be anti-weed, he wanted to be anti-hemp, and Abbott vetoed it. And Abbott's like, listen, I'm okay with protections against minors and shit, but you're not going to kneecap an industry that's making billions of dollars in the state and creating and it's on land that it can be used for other shit. Like you can use hemp on the land, and it's like then I can use it for farming in a different season, or I can build a greenhouse for the hemp and do other things. He's like, you're not going to handicap what's basically a harmless product for most the uses, because hemp is used for so many. And I think that that's really pushing it. And whenever you see a state like Texas doing it, which already has a pretty big weed legalization movement of its own, like Kinky Friedman, 10 years ago or whatever, got third place, and his whole platform for the governor with a significant number as an outside party. His whole platform was legalize weed, basically. That's like,
yeah, but I mean, based off of your sentiments, and you seem to like Texas in terms of freedom, but one would assume, or one would maybe think that Texas would be the first to legalize weed, and yet I think
it's in the process.
Controversial there.
I also,
my point is,
I
what does that view, by the way?
Well, I think it's because they're setting up for the election.
But I know that Biden also tried to reschedule weed when he was in office. I don't know. Maybe I know he ordered a report be made into it. I don't know. Maybe that report came back and said we shouldn't do it or whatever. But obviously, how much revenue do we really think that decriminalizing?
Well, yeah. I mean, listen. It's like
Biden wasn't capable of doing.
Well, non-fun. Listen, it's just like when I go to the range and I use a machine gun to try to hit a target. If I spray 1,000 bullets at a target, I'm probably and I'm just spraying. One of them might get a bullseye, but just because I shot 6,000 times doesn't mean they be a good shot.
You can disagree with.
Are we really? Hold on. Are we really celebrating Biden using government money to write up a report that went nowhere? That's our claim to fame right now.
Like a uniquely,
maybe
Trumpian. It's not a uniquely special thing that Trump did or whatever. But more importantly, how much revenue do we really expect decriminalizing weed to gives? There's no way it's gonna be. It's gonna be almost trivial, right?
But, really? You think so? Let's look at what Colorado has raised from weed taxes.
Colorado probably spends a lot less, both in absolute terms and as a percentage of Colorado's GDP, than the U.S. federal government does, right? I can't imagine. There's no way it's gonna offset the tax cuts or whatever that he's doing.
They made $2.3 billion so far in revenue. That is a massive chunk for a state.
Well, sorry, just to clarify, when you say so far, as it since it was legalized in Colorado, that's an annual type of thing.
Since 2016, 2014, and they've made in 2022 it ramped up to 313 million. 2023 it was 263, but it has other factors that say was why I guess they took a hit on something. But long story short, overall they're collecting massive amounts of money from marijuana.
About 200 million, right, for one state. Colorado is a fairly popular,
but they're in a surplus. They're in a surplus as well now because of this.
Right, you're talking about $2 billion. That's enough for research for a couple months on one plane.
Okay,
look, don't get me wrong. Hold on, don't get me wrong. I would appreciate less regulation and more legalization of drugs in this country. And
so 37% of their education, K through 12, comes from the funding of marijuana.
Enforcement costs.
Think about this. So since 2014, now 37% of their education is now paid for upfront by marijuana revenue, which is now allowing them to use their other money to pay for other shit. I know I'm against taxes in general. However, we're going to do a vice tax, and 37% of it's going to go to fucking schools and pay for this. Hey, that's a pretty good vice tax in my opinion. Hey, how do we get it to 100%?
I mean, look. I'm not gonna fight super hard on legalization, but it comes with a vice tax because it's kind of like a quid pro quo situation for the libertarian. I mean, I think weed vice taxes have been have been destructive to people's lives and have harmed people. Obviously, I mean, you could look at like Murder Mountain in California, places that used to have a thriving economy during the black market of selling marijuana, where taxation has been a means of funneling money over to large corporation and fucking over small farmers, and has been a cudgel to use against people that are trying to go legal that don't have the right political connections. But I mean, like, but at the end of the day, like, you know, taxation is harmful in a lot of domains, but bringing it to the market might be a good thing. But if we're talking about Trump's economic capacity, Trump's or, you know, overall agenda in terms of whether or not it's good or bad for the country from an economic perspective, weed is a drop in the bucket. Talking about the beef industry doing well when it's not tariffs that are making the beef industry do well.
I mean, part of it is the tariffs.
Overregulation of... I'm sure it does have some level of effect. Whether or not it has a positive or negative effect on prices, I'm going to go and say 99% sure, based on the fact that literally every school of economics agrees that tariffs increase price as opposed to decrease price.
Do you think buying luxury goods?
There's a phrase. There's a phrase. I mean, like there's a phrase in.
Do you think buying luxury
Austrian
goods is it like an indication of a stronger economy, like the ability to buy more expensive like luxury goods, like say a steak, for example? Would you agree that the more people wanting to buy a luxury good, like
steak a luxury good?
Sure. Just hear me out.
I think calling steak a luxury good is in and of itself a sign of a negative economy.
Well, okay, well that's interesting, but we could dive into that. But hear me out. Well, that's when, you know, people got to fix Biden's economy. But hear me out.
But like, how much does your standard cut of steak cost?
Well, that's. I mean, it depends. I think it
depends on the cut. I mean,
yeah, it varies by.
I have an autoimmune disorder, right? I have an autoimmune disorder, so my diet is basically steak because I don't eat pork for moral reasons. So it's basically just beef, chicken, a little bit of fish, and non-sweet and sweet fruit and dairy. That's all I can basically eat without getting sick.
Jordan Peterson diet.
No, Jordan Peterson's like carnivore. I mean, I guess it's similar that we have autoimmune disorder, so I figured out what I can eat. And so I buy a lot of steak, and like, you know, even skirt steak and flank steak bought in bulk is getting to like $14-15 a pound.
Okay,
right?
but
like it's cost you $30 to eat the cheapest steak.
Well, that's how lobster used to be. Lobster used to be the same way, right? Like lobster was what you fed.
Except it didn't used to be that. It used to be fucking cheaper. It's been consistently more expensive. And recently it hasn't got, the prices haven't dropped at all.
Okay, hold on. Two things. One, lobster used to be a poor man's food. Like that was a thing, and then it got discovered and became like a delicacy, right? And now it's expensive as fuck, right? And so when we're talking, that's part of the reason.
It's true with like mahi,
so,
right?
Same thing is happening with skirt steak. People are going, holy shit, skirt steak for fajitas, skirt steak for that. The demand is going up, right? And beef has always generally been more expensive.
No, it's just the other steaks have gotten so fucking expensive.
Well, no, I mean,
that more people are buying it, so it's a supply and demand equation.
I don't agree with that.
People used to ignore the skirt steak and the flank steak because they could afford a fucking T-bone or a New York strip. They can't anymore.
That's one way of doing it, but you also have to admit the demand for these have gone up because like the predominant idea of like, bro, Chili's fajitas, you just go out and you smell like the idea of fajitas in general is just like
I think people are eating more beef. I think beef was demonized in this country for a long time.
Right.
So
but why was it demonized? Part of that was because it was a more expensive cut than, say, chicken, right? That's why we had beef. It's what's for dinner commercial going on. Chicken's always been easier to mass produce. Chicken's a cheaper cut of meat. It's always been that way, right? So, okay, cool. Now, the demand for the more expensive
cheaper
meat
to raise
is going up. It's going up in general, right? To the point now where it's such a high demand, it's going to take 2 or 3 years just to catch up to current demand. As a beef producer, okay. What that indicates to me, when I see this and other luxury goods going up that are like expensive, like Rolex purchases, I see purchases like super yachts. I see purchases going up in general for certain things. When I see,
people purchasing super yachts.
Yeah, it's apparently they're up. I just was watching Robert Crown's video on it this morning. But the point that I'm saying here, when I see these kind of things,
if YouTube says so, okay.
Well, I mean, I trust Robert Crown. He's giving me some good financial advice that he's put out there, and I've made so far money on. But hear me out. Whenever I see things like this at like the macro with beef going up and people spending more money on this, that means they have more money to spend. Thus, that means they have more money in their pocket, which is a good indicator that the economy is improving.
So this is
No,
so this is
obviously
why that's a
we
bad
don't have to
metric.
do
This is a
like this
very bad
weird.
metric. Like purchase of luxury goods is a very, very poor
Let
metric
non-fund in
of
afterwards, please.
economic health. Yeah, well, sure. I mean, non-fund will probably say the same thing I'm going to say on this. Actually,
Right. I'm
because
just saying, like, we don't have to do this like weird complex analysis because we have data about first of all just the like total amount of income in the economy, right? That's what GDP represents, and then we should also look at like you know what we should look at Trump's policies and say how is it affecting this? So like we have very good evidence that tariffs in general reduce the total amount of income in a country, reduce the total amount of employment in a country, reduce the growth rate of a country. We have evidence in general that like a ton of government deficit spending probably also reduces the growth rate of a country. And
Is
again, that's the growth
GDP
rate of total
shrinking
income
ever
in the
good,
economy.
or like is
So-
GDP shrinking or like staying the same, or like not growing as fast?
I don't
Ever
want to say
like
it's.
bad, like ever not bad in your opinion?
I don't
Well, I
want to
think
say
by
never, but
definition-
all else equal. Like
So would you
Essentially.
say there are periods in like in history where like a government has like decided we're gonna go from one economy style to we're gonna transition to like I don't know something else, and their GDP is stagnant or backwards while they transition, but it's like oh this pain
there
now is
could
good
be-
for the pain later for the good later.
Yeah, sure. So there can be transition costs when we're switching to like some better system or whatever.
I
that may-
see.
What
may
is
have
that?
some
What
temporary
is that?
negative
What Trump is saying? We're
Like, all
transitioning,
the-
or is he
all
saying we
the-
have the hottest economy?
I mean we
Well,
are
that's true.
it's,
So
it,
number
both
one,
is
there
true.
that.
Both
But
is
also,
true.
like,
Both is okay.
what is the end goal
Well,
for this economy here? The end goal seems to be a bunch of fucking tariffs up, a bunch of fucking deficit spending,
Fair trade deals.
you know, getting
Listen.
rid of the welfare state for a lot of people. Like this is,
Well,
this is
listen,
not a good
like-
economy
like
that we're building, and all the
GDP
evidence suggests that
GDP
it's negative.
GDP is one of many metrics. It's not a perfect metric. One of the problems with GDP is that government spending is included in GDP. Right? It's
Interesting.
like
Problem.
that's a problem because in
definitely a problem.
California, for example, they'll be like GDP keeps going up even though their jobs haven't gone up because they're just
Okay,
spending
so
more
Fabian
taxes
Liberty,
and more
there's
stealing
this
more wealth.
wonderful
out of the
That's
concept,
economy.
absolutely
wonderful
correct. Thank
topic, Okay, wonderful concept called crowding out, right? And I'm sure you've heard of this before, right? Obviously, the government increases spending. It doesn't necessarily imply that GDP increases because if the government increases spending when we're at full employment, they're necessarily going to be drawing resources away from other sectors, right? They're going to be employing people who otherwise would have been employed by the
Mhm.
private sector. So it doesn't necessarily follow that, like, just because government production is included in GDP, the government can just spend money infinitely to make GDP go up. And
I didn't
that's
make
number
that
one. And
claim.
obviously,
So you're
we
you're
should
you're
have-
literally just
I'm
you're
saying
literally
it's,
just
I'm saying it's not
spitting
flawed
out
to
talking
include
points
government
instead
spending.
of dealing with what I said.
I'm saying it's not flawed.
No,
to
you have
include government spending in
practice.
GDP
You have
because
practice
government
talking
spending.
points. You're
True,
fucking. You
government
could be replaced by
spending is-
AI. You have no thought.
That's real. Government spending is real.
So why don't you
production,
actually make a
represents
real
economic activity, real economic resources, and it doesn't follow that just because the government spends a bunch of money that GDP is necessarily going to increase because
Again,
of the crowding out.
You're saying
effect.
it doesn't
So it's not a
follow by
problem.
to a comment that I didn't make. So you don't have
You
an
said it's a
argument.
problem.
Like you're just
You
an
said it's a
NPC talking
problem.
point.
You said it's a problem that government spending is included in GDP. That is a flaw with GDP. What I'm telling you, that's obviously not a flaw
Yes.
of GDP because government spending is real production, it's a real economic activity, and it
Government,
doesn't. It, like,
exactly. But like you said it can't be a problem because why? Why
think
can
it
it not be a problem? Okay, so it
I
could
don't
be
want
a
to say
problem.
like it can't.
So do you have an argument as to why I'm saying that,
imagine.
or are you have an argument based on a talking point because you like to
I have an
argue
argument that
against the
including
people
government spending
that
in
say
GDP is not a
number
problem.
go up? Okay, well, I'd say it's a problem. The reason I say it's a problem is because that it is spending in the economy where the most valued resources are not going towards their most valued means, but instead it is every bit of GDP that is including government spending is a sector of the economy that is less productive than it ought to be.
But in that case, you understand GDP would be higher without the government spending. So that's not. So you're not going to be able to like manipulate GDP numbers.
Yes,
like California's
I'm
not manipulating its
I'm not
GDP numbers by
manipulating.
spending a bunch of money. Then I don't want to say manipulating.
No,
it.
I'm saying that I'm saying the same thing that you're saying about the fact that there can be transitory costs that like can cause a slowdown of GDP. I'm also similarly saying that just because the GDP number is going up doesn't necessarily mean that that is always good for the economy, because in the long term, if the GDP is going up because we're, priming the economy by spending government money and it's leading to short-term growth, that in the long term that comes at a cost, and that it's not a perfect measure for everything in the economy. And I'm not
I
even
agree. I
saying
don't
that
think GDP
you're
is a
saying that
perfect
it
measure for
is.
anything in the economy.
I was only a transition into a point that I was into giving the devil his due in terms of how I'm about to bring up GDP as a metric. And the reason I was bringing that up is that, listen, we can talk about GDP, we can talk about certain prices of certain goods and hyper things. The issue that I have is that, yes, and that's why I put that meme up, right, where you see the economy increasing and everyone's like, MAGA economics, it's so great. And it's like, but it's not measured against what the economy would be like without the fucking tariffs. It's like, yeah, you're going to see improvements in certain areas and stabilization, but we're currently running an experiment. And so far as you believe in empirics, right, we have another country that has decided to actually adopt libertarianism as opposed to socialism, and that's Argentina, and that's the #1 growing country in the world right now. It's beating out China in terms of economic growth.
The baseline, like
economic
so low.
But I just want to be clear.
Like,
Gibbs
that
was
doesn't mean
referring
anything.
to income, right? And I was just saying,
What are
we
you
have a
talking about?
measure
Going
of the
from
total-
250% year-over-year inflation down to under 30%, moving 7.7 million people
Deflation.
into the middle class in the last quarter, moving 2.4, according to UNICEF, 2.4 million children out of poverty since he became president. I think we have an example of what happens when you elect an ANCAP, and that means that the fucking economy booms.
I agree. It's working now. I'm not going to dispute that. Like, the empirics clearly demonstrate that, like, there's significant improvement. Now, whether it actually bears out over time, like, that we'll find out. But also factor in, like, the baseline is the baseline is
keeps
so
electing
low that,
ANCAPs. Agreed.
The baseline is so low that, like, the room for improvement is, like, sky high. As in, like,
it's
when
the
someone
North
is
Korea problem.
when someone is like 500 pounds overweight, is like pretty much any 10-pound weight loss is a significant improvement, and like your ability to walk is just better. It's like the baseline is so low that just like any improvement.
I'd say our
is
baseline's
amplified.
pretty fucking low when we're $37 trillion in debt and counting. Okay, I'm saying
I don't disagree. Lockwood seems to have no problem with that in terms of he seems to think the
socialist like Trump.
I asked you last time. Correct me if I'm wrong. You think the big beautiful bill is an overall net good?
Who?
I said I don't know.
I'm pretty sure.
I think
I'm pretty sure.
I think the tax.
I said it's a net negative.
I think the tax decline is really good. I think that the spending decline is really good, and I think that the deficit is bad. As I think probably overall, you're asking me now. I think it probably overall is good, but that's not to say that the deficit part of it's bad or that I don't or not bad or that I don't care about it. I mean, like. I'm. This is going to sound like a whataboutism, but let me explain. Like, look at the deficit increases under Biden. It's like dramatically high, and like everybody looked at that like, oh,
president.
Well, yeah, like, oh, the deficit, this, whatever, right? The American Rescue Plan, infrastructure bill, all this stuff. Like, it's gonna be good. It's gonna lead to like these kind of offsets going forward, right? It's gonna lead to good things. So of course we got to like spend all this money and rack up the deficit. And yeah, all the arguments that you're using when it comes to the deficit now with Trump applied then, and they do apply now, which is that it's going to lead to increased amounts of interest payment, and then in the long term that sucks, right? So that's not good, and so every president does it. And when the current bill that's going forward, which is increasing the deficit, just like every president has been doing. Basically going back to Bill Clinton. And by the way, that surplus was actually unexpected by the Bill Clinton administration. They didn't expect to have a surplus when they had it. And a huge part of that surplus wasn't actually driven by government policy. A huge part of that was just driven by the economic boom of the 90s. Brought in way more revenue than they otherwise thought would occur. But when the deficit increase that is inevitably going to happen, has these caveats of, oh, it decreases taxes and decreases spending dramatically. I don't know. Like, it's better than the potential alternatives, right? It's better than, we're going to increase the deficit and increase spending, right? And either keep taxes the same or raise them, right?
Can I push back slightly on this? And I'm not like really attacking you per se. My problem with bills that increase the budget, increase the ceiling, the debt ceiling, right? But purport to have all of these tax cuts is like, I like the concept of the tax cuts, I do. But at the end of the day, a tax cut is meaningless if the government continues to spend for two reasons. One is you can cut all the taxes you want. If the government keeps spending and spending more, then that money is being taxed in some way. Either that's like an increase in the money supply from some monetary policy of the reserve or some other area, or it's increased taxation from tariffs. Like if the government spends money, that is a tax. Now, when we cut or move taxes around, that might affect where and who we tax. But at the end of the day, the entire economy is being taxed if we spend more money. And so I could kind of give a rat's ass about supposed tax cuts, unless those supposed tax cuts aren't also like when those supposed tax cuts are coming with, oh, and by the way, we've increased the amount that we're going to spend. Because at the end of the day, we're still taxing somewhere. I like the concept of cutting of tax cuts, but it's like, well, then why did we raise why was it necessary to raise the debt ceiling unless there's an expectation that we're going to keep spending more?
Sure.
Which is
so
taxes.
I'm gonna like I guess partially agree and partially disagree. And the caveat here, I mean, even if we roll with this these assumptions, the Big Beautiful Bill does lower overall spending, right? And so like that is like in of itself a good, right? It lowers overall spending by a significant degree. And that's, you know, you would agree that, hey, lowering the overall spending there, that at least, you know, the only reason why we even have a deficit is because the tax cuts cut down the overall revenues more than what the spending decrease is. I mean, the spending decrease is very substantive.
We don't know that it really like lowers spending. Like we have estimates, right? Because you never know how much tax revenue you're going to get in. You don't know what in the future, like what continuing resolutions or what.
Well, of course, but this is for all policies,
come through, right? Well, not ones that don't increase the fucking debt ceiling, right? Like that is the crux, right? That is the important thing, is that he signed in permission for the government to spend more. And like I'm far like that is far more important than the presumption that we're going to spend less based off of the spending cuts in this specific bill, is that he signed permission for the government to spend more money as we're already in debt and as 13% of the entire federal budget is going off to pay debt.
Look, we're talking about raising the debt ceiling. Like, I mean, it's pretty radical. I don't know if you would agree with this. I think it's pretty radical to say that we shouldn't, in the sense of good fucking luck getting the kind of bill passed that would allow you to not raise the debt ceiling, just in the current political climate that we're in. Unfortunately,
well, isn't that just giving up on the U.S. at that point?
It's not. It's not giving up. Look, I'm not giving up. I'm just looking at this in a very kind of like, take the good with the bad kind of analysis, where I understand that I would be doing the Big Beautiful Bill very differently than Trump did, right?
Yeah.
If I wielded ultimate power,
10 steps back.
No,
like
but that's the disagreement. That's the disagreement. I think it's hold on. I think it's like 10 steps forward, 9 steps back.
Okay, here's my problem. Is there any signs whatsoever that the deficit spending and the debt is decreasing under Trump?
No. Well, hold on. Wait. Yes, I spoke too quickly because I was just thinking about the big beautiful bill, and I wasn't thinking about the income from tariffs. It's possible, and we don't know how much we're going to raise in tariffs, but it's possible that that's going to offset a lot of the deficit increase coming from the big beautiful bill.
I have some stats. If you want them real quick.
A couple. Yeah, it's great. So a couple.
I mean, that's a fair argument. Terrifying, but fair.
I will. I can elaborate. Okay, so. Number one, if we're lactoid, I don't know where you're getting like the big spending reductions from. We're cutting about $1 trillion in spending, right? But then
1.2 trillion, yeah.
The cost of servicing the debt undoes a lot of that. Probably increases the cost of servicing debt for the 10 years over to like 700 billion, right? So you're getting probably like $500 million in spending decreased or whatever. And interest costs also reduce any of the growth effects that we're going to see from cutting taxes. Now, to some extent, I agree with you, and I would move to a much more efficient tax code that I don't think has the same negative effects on growth that our current tax code does. But I don't think this bill actually moves us very, very close in that direction. And I think a lot of the random deductions we're adding are both like anti-growth and also just add a bunch of complexity to the tax code, which is already like too complex or whatever. And at the end of it, so like at the end of the day, like all you're getting is like an estimated like 0.4 percent increase in long run GDP for a bunch of deficit spending and a regressive tax cut. Like this is not. I don't think that's. I quite frankly, I don't think that's a net benefit. And with regards to the tariffs, obviously, if we want to raise revenue, we should want to raise it in the most efficient way possible. And there are a lot of reasons why.
Regressive tax cut? Are you saying illegal immigrant? Like, what do you mean by?
No, I'm saying
that's something to do.
The CBO and the CBO and the Wharton Penn Institute both have their distributional analysis. The net payment of of lower income people goes down because they receive Medicaid cuts and don't receive a ton of tax cuts, whereas the net payment for richer people,
right? But but is there Medicaid and Medicare tax cuts to citizens in the big beautiful bill specifically? To American citizens?
Number one, there are
there's increased work requirements.
Sure, which we know is going to kick off a lot of people, even people who are not people who just don't.
Hold on. So it's a regressive tax. Listen. I don't necessarily.
And also there are certain like ACA.
Well, I just think you've really snuck in this negative, like a term of like, oh, it's a regressive. It's actually harming the poor. When specifically what you're talking about is not giving states the ability to fund illegal immigrants and a very small work requirement for people who are capable of working to receive benefits.
I don't think it's necessarily a small work requirement. I think I think estimates I've seen say that like, at least like 8 million people are going to be kicked off Medicaid because of that.
Isn't it 80 hours a month?
So
20 hours a week?
Obviously you should.
And it's only for people who are physically capable of working.
Yeah, that's great. So number one, like there's just not a epidemic of these people on Medicaid, right? Like only 3 to 5% of people on Medicaid are people who aren't working long term. Most of them are disabled.
Right, but you're calling it a regressive tax because it harms the poor. When really what we're talking about is lazy fucking leeches and illegal immigrants.
No, I'm not. I'm about to elaborate that a bunch of evidence we have from work requirements in Arkansas, from work requirements from eligibility changes to Medicaid under COVID, suggests that most people who are kicked off of Medicaid because of things like this are just people who can't keep up with the administrative burden, right? Both on behalf of the people filing the new requirements and on the state that's in charge of processing them, right? I don't think that's an efficient system to distribute welfare for. And I think the evidence shows that most people kicked off Medicaid because of the work requirements aren't people who don't meet the work requirements. It's people who meet the work requirements or have an exemption.
It's people that can't get on their phone and fill out a form.
But that's why I'm saying the estimates will show that that's great. That's why I'm saying that estimates will show.
You're saying that's great, but you snuck in a bunch of bullshit.
I didn't sneak in any bullshit. I just elaborated. And also, just again, if
no,
we
you absolutely did. You're calling it a regressive tax.
That's great.
When it's not. It's like a regressive tax cut when it's not.
Regressive tax cut because it increases the net payment for a lot of poor people, or decreases their net income and does the opposite for rich people, right? That's regressive in my mind. But also, if we want to raise a certain amount of revenue or whatever, we should want to do it in the most efficient way possible.
It's not regressive. You're doing it. It's not. That's just not true.
Okay.
May I?
If we want it, hold on.
Yeah, you just say okay, great, and spew talking points and lies and bullshit. Like why are you here for a debate if you're not going to be honest about it?
I just want to say I have responded to your point, but just real quick, if we want to raise a certain amount of revenue, we should do it in the most efficient way possible. And I think there's a lot of reason why tariffs are almost the least efficient way to raise revenue, right? A 5% VAT, which is way more efficient than tariffs, way less distortionary, way less potential for rent seeking, would probably raise about the same amount as
I'd like to.
20% universal
tariff. Can I respond because there's a couple points.
Quite a while. Then we go to Lactoid.
Well, actually, this is your question, Lactoid. You or somebody asked, do we know that we're actually seeing progress towards the overall deficits, the overall cuts? Yeah, I mean it's twofold. One, I'm going to come back to this in the second half. What I want to say is with Doge, right? Doge is doing stuff, and they're finding fraud, and some of these fraud things being eliminated or stopped are a big thing, right? Well, actually, we'll just come to it now. Like I have an article here, 300 says more than 300 charged in a 14.6 billion healthcare fraud scheme, right? And they were like led to it by Doge. Okay, that doesn't sound like that. It's a drop in the bucket. But then it's like all these drops start adding up. You know, we have another thing we talked about. Y'all just talked about illegal aliens. Here's an article from the Chicago Tribune, pretty left-leaning organization. Here, I'll post it in the group chat. They're talking about how these Democrat-led states are cutting funding for people with lacking permanent legal status. All right, so now they're cutting funding. That's government spending lower, right? Here's another fraud thing. They lives at TikTok sell this one, but it's from Fox News. They're starting to 1.2 million to 228 build, all went
Fox
to
News is
yeah.
better.
Hey,
than
barely,
fucking
but
Libs of
hey,
TikTok,
just
to
hear
be
me out.
honest.
But there, it's an autism center fraud scam. That's 228 million build in 2024, right? So over time, I think it's going to be less than $1 billion, but still several million. All right, these things are getting cut out, right? Now we're going to get to the meat of the matter, right? So in June, they had a surplus of 27 billion, right? And that's a big up from May, where there was a deficit because a lot of this new thing was going to affect new president sitting in office. They're going to have some spending. They're going to have a lot of shit go down. It was a 316 billion deficit. Now they benefited from a calendar change, right? And on that calendar change, if they had included this on this month, it would have been a 70 billion deficit, which is still a substantial difference from whenever overall government spending from 316 to 70 billion. But now since calendar thing, that was included with the last one, and they're up 27 billion for June. All right, cool. We see that. Now when we look at tariffs are providing most of this income. When you're saying it's bad, you have to remember Trump argued at the beginning of his presidency, and I don't know if this is still his plan, but he was arguing that we won't need the IRS anymore because tariffs are going to bring in enough money. Like, if I don't have to worry about the IRS, and that organization goes bye-bye because we're tariffing other countries, listen, I like free trade as much as the next guy, but fuck those other countries. I guess you could say it's a tax on the consumers, but I'll take like indirect tax via tariffs over directly them taxing my income any day, because then I can at least choose the products I'm buying. I'm sitting here seeing this. We can look at the debt over time. Yes, the big beautiful bill does
choose between two products that are.
Well, listen, I live in the real world, and I know in America, unfortunately, we have to have
not when you're talking about tariffs.
I like our military, and I like having the biggest dick in the yard, and I guess that makes me socialist in that regard. But I know that we're gonna need to spend money on that shit, and that makes up a lot of our funding. And so I don't live in Libertaria like Argentina. Argentina doesn't have 11 fucking super carriers, right? Like, I live in the real world, and so when I have to sit here and make a choice between the income
Argentina isn't in the real world.
Sure, but they're also not fucking having to be the world police and the be big or maintain Pax Americana, which I know y'all might disagree with. But it does. It does with what I have to say. Well, I was about to say that. Let me just finish here. I'm saying if I have to choose between a tariff and no income tax, I can at least choose my products, maybe buy American instead, and then there increases the domestic economy. I've seen this as like a transitionary period. You'll ask me if that was something I've seen earlier, and I absolutely see the indication, especially with the big beautiful bill. Looks like it might add a certain amount to the debt over time, which everyone does, but it's going to lead to overall less government spending of some percentage. I lost the percentage, but it's an overall net lower spending cost in general, especially when Doge is actively cutting spending. That's what we want, right? Incremental gain.
I'm all for Doge. I'm all for Doge cuts. I wish Doge actually cut as much as Elon Musk wanted it to cut, as opposed to having his hands tied by Trump, because Trump's a fucking socialist that doesn't do anything other than just appeal to what the masses want instead of actually doing what he says he's going to do. But setting that aside, listen. Every tax changes behavior. Every time when you talk about what it is that you're taxing, it's going to have a change on the behavior of whatever that thing is, right? If we tax cigarettes, it's going to change the supply and demand equation for cigarettes, because the fucking price has been artificially increased, and people are going to say that the price is no longer worth it. So there's going to be less demand for cigarettes. Things do balance out, right? Because behavior changes. When you have a tax to a certain degree, sure. But the problem is when you were talking about tariffs, what you were talking about behavioral change is that you were talking about everything being produced in America. And that sounds based. That sounds awesome, right? Like, fuck yeah, it's got my made in America, little flag, made in the USA, little flag, even though those things are very rarely made in the USA. They're usually just put together in the USA, or they stamp a sticker on the product at the USA, even though it's made globally. The problem with that is that not only is that a tax that people pay on imports, and then they don't pay on the American products, it's that we have, since the Industrial Revolution, lived in a global economy. Okay, when we buy a product, products have become astronomically cheaper than they used to be. Like, people in pre-industrialization would work for months and months as yeoman farmers so that they could afford enough money to get glass windows instead of wax paper windows. And one of the major reasons why things are so astronomically cheaper than they used to be is because we have discovered in in global supply chains. And that means that something is made, the rubber comes from one country and the fucking metal comes from another country. And, labor is cheaper, but not as highly skilled in another country. And then there's skilled labor in another country. And then you put all of these global supply chains and you get the cheapest price for every portion of the production on a product. And if you tariff like crazy, what you are going to get is not just the tariffs being a tax that people pay, but you're also going to get a massive increase in price. We're talking 10, 15
that just means they're
times
luxury
more
goods now,
expensive for
Scott.
basic products.
No. I mean,
that just means luxury goods now. The price increases.
No. That's not what I'm saying. This is what I think you're missing here, though. Right? Like that works all well and great if everybody's playing the same, but everybody's not playing the same, right? Other countries do have tariffs. Other countries do have trade deals. Other countries have things like laws, like Europe used to have, where they'd only import a certain amount of beef, no matter what standards we met, because they were like, oh, we want to make sure we maintain a certain industry level here, and they'll say, oh, well, it's not up to our standards. They'll put unfair bullshit in there, so they have an unfair advantage.
Well, I agree.
We don't
have your cake and eat it too.
Oh, well, I understand that, but hear me out. Listen, I'm not
because they're good, or B, they're a negotiation tactic.
Well, absolutely what I've been saying, sure, but they can be both.
You can't have both of those simultaneously.
They can't. Well, I don't know about free trade all worldwide, but hold on. It's also I'm more worried about. No. Listen, well, cool. Then maybe I'm slightly against free trade in some respects, and this is where I am. Is because here's what I'm looking at. Cool, yeah, it's a negotiation tool. I'm not even going to argue that one. That one's just clearly obvious, and that's the stance I would usually take. But when I sit here and see an industry like beef, right, which we have a large American beef industry, and yes, it's the one I'm the most familiar with. That's why I keep coming back to it. And I see unfair trade practices.
The rest of the world has had bullshit laws since the
Sure, fair. Yeah, cool. Okay, got it, right. So when I see this, and
they never appealed them.
Hold on. Well, they are working on shit now. It's crazy how it works. And now when I see shit going down, I go, oh, okay, what have we done in America to compete? Well, instead of having as many cows, we have heavier cows. You're absolutely right. Behavior has changed based off these taxes and shit. Well, here's a behavior. If prices go up because, demand is going up for beef, and these other countries now have having to play at the same playing field as we are, guess what that means? That means we can now we already are the more efficient system of growing beef here. Now we can do expansion, and we can compete at like a more commercial level as well. It's like you're saying these things, and yes, they work in like perfect world, but the supply chains aren't fair, and like it behooves us when we already have an industry to like push that industry more. I'm not even in the Trump thing. I'm not even on the Trump train. Just let me finish. I'm not even on the Trump train where I'm saying it's a full transition into like all these other things where we have this great economy and I want to bring manufacturing back. I'm not even there. I'm more like, let's stop the bleeding and let's embolden the industries we have. And right now, I see that with interests like agriculture overall. Like, this is what I'm seeing. And y'all are like, I agree
with what you're saying to a certain degree. So I want you to pick one. You need to pick one now, or I'm going to call you a coward every time we talk.
Sure.
Right? So I know you got balls. You're going to pick one. Okay. Either A, tariffs are harmful. They increase tariffs and unnecessary regulations that act in the same way of stifling free trade, right, are awful. And other countries have been doing this to us, and it has harmed our economic growth and production and our ability to export. That's option A. Tariffs are bad, and therefore it is good to use them as a negotiation tactic to get rid of those things. And then there's option B, which is tariffs are good for the economy in and of themselves because they bring in revenue and they protect American labor. All right, these are two opinions you've had that are contrary.
Oh no, because protecting American labor can absolutely be on the
future.
Hold on,
and hold you to that opinion.
Hold on. It's definitely the first one, but hold on. Under the caveat that protect American labor can also be included, because I would say making things on the same playing field is protecting American labor, even if there's a short-term hurt in American labor. Like I'm like looking at a long time.
Okay, so we're picking A.
Yeah, I'm picking A under that caveat.
Other countries have been.
Absolutely. That's more the camp I live in. I don't think tariffs are. Well, sure, but unless you change your opinion. Hold on. I've never sat here and said.
No. I'm gonna. So you're picking A, and what you're picking is that we recognize that tariffs are bad. Tariffs are bad for the U.S. economy. They're bad for other countries' economy.
Yeah, it's a negative tool.
Game, so we're using them as a tool and a negotiating tactic.
But it could be a net benefit.
Get rid of tariffs from them and us.
Yeah, but the thing I disagree. I don't know if this is even a disagreement with the phrasing you hear. Yeah, I would say in and of themselves, I'm not pro tariff just by itself, right? Like, because it's not good for the economy. I won't even argue that. What I will argue though is if the one of it's a negative, if it's a
in here,
sure,
okay?
yeah, I'm almost done right here. If it's a negative, yeah, a negative tool, it can still have a net positive benefit. If one country's being unfair and I hit them with a negative, we're both going to suffer. Well, guess what? They're going to suffer more. Now they give me what I want, which is X, Y, Z, and now we're bidding for more. Yeah, I think it's absolutely a wonderful tool.
You think
Fine.
Canada's treating the United
Good.
States unfairly?
Yeah, I think they've been treating us like dog shit for a long time.
So the agreement, the USMCA that Trump negotiated, that was a dumb deal then.
I mean, listen, he learned from it. He's adapted. We move forward.
So you agree it was a dumb deal? Like
I don't know.
you
I don't know
said
enough
Canada,
about
you're
it
getting
right off the top of my
screwed.
head.
That's the result of Trump.
I mean, I'm gonna have to look through it.
Well,
more
you just
specifically.
said Canada was screwing us. Did he not negotiate the USMCA?
Sure.
So
I mean,
is
does
it the
every
result
deal
of
a good one? Like, I don't know, like enough about the
Well, no,
MCA to like
why-
argue about it.
So try to square the circle for me, unless I'm not understanding. Following, you think Canada has been taking advantage of the United States?
Sure.
Was Trump not president during 2016 and did not renegotiate or negotiate the USMCA and got rid of NAFTA?
Yes, he
Someone in
did
my
do that.
pocket said, "Corey, you're not allowed to walk in the woods alone because of your government. Your opinion doesn't matter."
Yeah, I mean,
That's not
I don't
true.
know
Well,
enough
first of all,
about.
I'm in a major city.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Well, first of all, depending on where that comment is from, he can't smoke cannabis depending on what state he's in. But you can smoke cannabis anywhere in Canada.
That's a good
So-
point.
So okay, all right.
It's a fair rebuttal.
Yeah. So, Gibbs, USMCA.
I mean, I don't have enough information about. I mean, I don't know if it was a bad thing. I mean, it's also situational. Like,
But you are
But you agree.
taking advantage of, right? Yeah.
I'm positive that at some point previous in the last 50 to 100 years, Canada has been taking advantage of it. So, like, is that, like, yeah, they've been taking advantage of us for a while.
really-
I mean, listen, so also what you're trying, I see what you're trying to do, and it's a really pathetic trick, guys. Like, I've said I don't have the ins and outs of the USMCA. Hold on. Hold on. If I'm asking a question, I'm going to fucking answer it real quick. It's real simple. I don't have the answer to, like, go to the specifics of the USMCA. However, what Trump could go in there, make a deal, try and improve things, and still be a bad deal, just like Fabian was trying to say. And like, secondly, on top of that, and more importantly, yeah, I would hope he's trying to do something to remedy this, even if he got out bamboozled in his first time as president. He's back now, and things are changing, and it's wonderful. Big fan.
Okay, let's let enough elect to it.
Okay, so just a couple things. We're doing a little bit of looking. Medicaid, the Medicaid changes. I depending on how you measure this, just because overall the percentage of people on Medicaid who are able-bodied without kids is going to be comparatively small, but among that group, less than half are working 80 hours a week, or sorry, 8 hours a month. I think that if you are able-bodied without kids, I think a work requirement or some kind of job training requirement or some kind of any kind of requirement, whether community
Just
service,
doing
even,
something as opposed to
doing
just getting free
something.
money.
Absolutely, I think that is like able-bodied without kids, like this group, needs to be doing something as opposed to not working more than 80 hours a month. I think that's a slap in the face to people who are actually working. Now we can
People
talk
that can't
about
afford a home because of the burden of taxation.
Yeah,
Gotta make sure
we
they
can
pay
talk
for the people that aren't working.
And we can talk about, there's some similar numbers, obviously a little bit different, but there's some similar numbers when it comes to SNAP as well. Able-bodied without kids, people on SNAP, and disability. There's a whole can of worms in terms of how the U.S. gauges disability and how the fact that disability skyrocketed when Reagan redefined some of the categories. And I think there's some kind of soft fraud occurring with U.S. disability, but even without getting into that, which I think is a problem that we're going to have to address at some point. Just looking at people who the government is not considering disabled, they don't work 80 hours a month on average. The majority of them don't. In terms of the actual effects of the deficit, you're right that obviously the Big Beautiful Bill does have a positive effect on the deficit, like a positive in terms of bad effect on the deficit, which I agree is bad. But of course, I mean, this is on sort of the max prediction about 3 trillion when you factor in interest, 3 trillion in overall deficit during that over the 10-year period, factoring in interest, and that does not also factor in the increased revenue from the tariffs. While Biden approved $4.7 trillion in new debt with his spending increases, that was not a reduction in taxes. And so when you present to me Trump as a U.S. president, obviously I'm having to some degree, compare them to the actions of prior presidents. And when you have overall, if you don't factor in COVID, he was on track to doing pretty good in terms of increased taxes.
You don't factor in a pandemic
and increased spending. Yeah, you're right. The pandemic, the pandemic led to crazy amounts of spending. Now that's a whole fucking can of worms about how responsible Trump is for that in terms of what kind of spending that he's done. Obviously, on one hand, he's fully responsible, and on the other hand is, would any president in that position, given the effect of a worldwide pandemic, have spent the money in that way? Probably. I can't say that for sure, but probably. And so, again, one of the questions here is, is Trump as comparably as a president? That's why I rated him a little bit higher as comparably as a president compared to my expectations of him, which I gave him a lower grade, because I like to have high expectations of my leaders. But anyway, Biden increased more of the deficit. And I think it's interesting now that we're maybe having Republican in office is the best way to get Democrats to talk about
he didn't
deficit and all the negative effects of the deficit.
Well, hold on. To be clear, I'm somewhat of a
wait. Hold on. The deficit increased, like the overall debt. More debt was approved, right, under Biden in terms of his spending bills, and this deficit over the 10-year period that we're talking about with the Big Beautiful Bill specifically, not factoring in tariffs, which are already increasing revenues like from tariffs like over 250%, something like that. It's not even factoring that in. That led to a surplus in June. We're not even factoring that in. That is $3 trillion factoring in interest. So that is less than what Biden's been approving, and the almost all of that deficit is coming from tax cuts, as opposed to the deficit from Biden, which is coming from spending increases. I think tax cuts are better generally than spending increases. Again, compared to what Biden did. The tariffs are likely going to affect GDP negatively at about 1.2%. The tax cuts will likely increase GDP growth by about 1.2%. Based on what I've been able to find. So it actually appears in terms of overall effect on a GDP, be relatively a wash when you compare the tariffs to the tax cuts. But at least he's not factoring in new spending.
Okay, so for one, $3 trillion from all the estimates I have is the estimates for without including the cost of servicing the debt, right? And the reason I keep bringing up like the cost of servicing the debt and things like that is because again, a lot of the estimated growth from the tax cuts are undone when you account for the fact that long-term rates are probably going to increase, and that's going to crowd out, investments by private companies. With regard to the Medicaid stuff, first, actually, I'll say with regards to Biden increasing the debt or whatever, it could be the case that Biden over his whole term increased the debt more than Trump did in this one bill. I'm definitely open to that, but I think deficit spending was probably more justified under Biden, right? Because he did have a pandemic to deal with. There were arguably
that funding came from before.
What
no,
funding?
Hold on. Because we already spent out our fucking ass. Yeah, we already spent out our fucking ass, and then by the time that Biden got in, like it was not required. Like it was a literally taking advantage of a situation to spend even more money. We can argue about whether or not that money was actually necessary when there had just been so much money handed out.
That's right,
because of the pandemic while Trump was in office.
Come on, Lackjoy, come to beef and weed side. Come on.
Complicated question, right? So how, whether we would have seen the level of growth that we did see after the pandemic if the American Rescue Plan had not passed, I think it's very much it's a complicated question. I don't necessarily have a strong opinion on it, but I do think like there are reasons to believe directionally it helped the economy at least somewhat recover faster from COVID. Even if we were, like as you said, I agree, we were probably mostly recovered from COVID by that point, but we saw like really high like prime age employment under Biden, right? We saw a lot of good economic metrics under him despite the inflation, right? So Again, it's possible that Biden approved more debt over his whole term than Trump's, one budget bill. Now, I will also add, it doesn't seem entirely unlikely to me that, Trump ends up passing more bills that increase the deficit. But, we'll see. With regards to the Medicaid stuff, I think you're citing the numbers that the AEI used from like SIP surveys or whatever. I think they make a number of errors. Like Matt Brunig has 2 articles about this. Essentially, whatever
the People's Policy Project, I've read that
yeah,
too.
Matt Brunig.
I go,
and I have a
Brunig.
reputation. I have a reputation for his criticism of the AEA. But go ahead.
Sure. I mean, the way he does it, which maybe some disagreements with some of the people he excludes, still, that has like 3 to 5% of people who are Medicaid are, people who like aren't working long term or whatever. And again, I don't think that the goal that you have here is totally horrible of like increasing employment for Medicaid recipients or whatever. But I don't think this fucking works. Increase the goal for that goal. I think the evidence shows that it's not going to have a meaningful employment increase, and it's going to kick off a lot of people who just don't keep up with the administrative burden. Again, there's 2 studies about this from Arkansas. I believe there's another one from it's either Mississippi or Alabama, I think. And there's evidence from this again from when eligibility requirements were changed under COVID. That's like 70% of the people who were cut off Medicaid didn't meet the new requirements. They just didn't like fill out the paperwork on time, or someone in the government messed up. And there's just no reason to add that increased administrative burden when there's no evidence that it actually does anything to increase employment.
Okay. So specifically addressing the AEI data. So the AEI calculated the non-disability portion of Medicaid recipients based on who the government considers to be disabled. What Matt Brunig did is he said, well, you can't take that. We also have to factor in people's self-reported disabilities. So if people who are not considered disabled by the government self-report on the census, yeah, I am disabled, he takes that number and then he considers that included with the non-disabled portion of people, able-bodied people, right? He takes that as a portion. Now, whether or not somebody self-reports as being disabled, I think is wholly different than the government, than them passing the government standards on what it means to be disabled. There are plenty of people who may feel they are disabled, but by what we as a government and a society have determined is not disabled, which is, by the way, our standards for what is disabled in terms of unable to work, I think are pretty lax to start with. But the fact that there are people who the government does not consider disabled, but then they simply self-report disabled, I think that's a kind of facially problematic for Matt Brunig to include that in any of his numbers. And then in terms of the, give me one second. And then in terms of the overall deficit increase, once again, like sure, if going forward Trump passes multiple new big beautiful bills that increase the deficit even like more, and it keeps expanding, then we could get to a point, sure, where I'd be like, okay, this is like dramatically worse than what Biden did. But I think that the comparison here to Biden is, I'm going to compare it to Biden, and then I'm also going to compare it to Trump's first term briefly. Compared to Biden, this is and I just looked it up, I'm seeing 3% top, including the interest, or 3 trillion overall. This is still less than the spending increases of 4.7 trillion, the unfunded spending increases. By the way, his spending increases was even more than that. There was also funding that accounted for some of that. So he also increased revenues, which is generally bad, but he increased revenues. So actually his spending was even higher than that. His unfunded spending was 4.7 trillion. So I think 4.7 trillion of increased debt in the form of spending is worse than $3 trillion of increased deficit in the form of tax cuts, not factoring in the tariffs. And then if we want to go back to, again, Trump's first term, yes, spending at the end increased dramatically. Prior to the pandemic, in the 2016 election, they did economic evaluations of each of the presidents, and Trump's economic plan had which he was mostly sticking to until the pandemic, did have overall lower spending than any of the Democrats that he was running against. And when the pandemic happened, spending increased dramatically. They put shit tons of money into it. But let's remember what happened, right? Despite all this ridiculous amounts of money, when Biden took over, they took advantage of the situation. They extended the absurdly high extra unemployment payments that they were paying people to not work, right? So people that were working were making a lot less than people that were not working. The federal government was sending an additional like $400 a week, and the Republicans had to fight the Democrats tooth and nail to like get that lower and lower and lower because the Democrats just saw it as a handout, and that's what they were using the American Rescue Plan as. And coincidentally, that's also, along with the spending cuts and the supply chain disruptions, that's going to increase inflation down the line. I don't know. In terms of factoring in all of these like moving parts, this is what I mean, at least when I'm saying, hey, I still care about the deficit, but factoring in like the norms of how presidents operate, factoring in what kind of deficit this is increasing, it's not as bad. It's simply not as bad. And there are positives about this. Like when Biden's increasing spending by trillions and now Trump is decreasing spending by trillions, that's a move in the right way. Like, don't you like? Do you think it'd be? And maybe you're the wrong person to ask. Not fun. Do you think it'd be good if Trump like passed a bill expanding spending?
It depends where. I think overall, I don't have an issue with like spending more. I think we have to do it in a more efficient way. Like I think in my ideal society, government spending would probably be like 30% of GDP or something, or federal government spending would probably be 30% of GDP. I think we're at like 18% right now. So
okay, so
Just
a lot
double the
more
government
spending.
bro. It'll be okay.
But I'm guessing you would increase taxes, right?
I'd also raise taxes, but I would raise taxes in a much more like efficient way or whatever. So like, I mean,
Bro, he'll just tax the rich. Everything will be okay, brother.
I'm not in favor of taxing the rich. I love my consumption taxes on the middle class, hella based. Okay. Anyway, so for one, like on I believe the question asked in like that survey is like, do you have trouble finding employment
Want to buy
because
a
of your
house?
disability?
Go fuck yourself.
I could.
The government needs to give
Sure,
these
like, I could-
non-working people on Medicaid as much money as we can, bro. Don't you see that they're suffering? According to Matt Brunegg, they have a self-reported. Like, what are we even doing here, man?
Well, look, I mean, maybe I'd say maybe you have some like disagreement with that, and like I can see that. Like, I think I think it also probably is the case for like the veteran, like the VA includes like too many people as disabled or whatever. But I think
they do.
I don't know, I think it seems a little. I think it seems a little silly to say that like when people who have like a self-reported disability are like they're actually like really able-bodied and therefore it's fine if we pass a cut that's likely to like kick them off Medicaid. I think that's a little I don't know. My moral intuitions run against that. I understand yours probably don't. I think a lot of people's moral intuitions would run against that.
Yeah, you
but,
like
overall,
leeches
even
and
if
enforced equality at the cost of the American dream. You like,
but
to,
not
see
fun.
you like to see everyone suffer equally.
Leeches is the exact word.
Yes, based. Okay, but so again, like to say
Dregs.
like Biden took advantage of the COVID stuff seems a little weird to me. Like I do understand, and like I think there are arguments that you can make against the American Rescue Plan. But
we
like,
needed more
really,
stimmy checks. Really?
I mean, I think you can definitely make that argument. I think if you look at I'm not familiar with what the like causal evidence.
If
like
only
says on
we
this,
had
but,
more
like,
inflation
it
in the
seems-
economy,
I mean-
Lacroix. Wouldn't that have been better if we had a lot
True.
more
I
inflation?
don't think I don't know how much government spending was responsible for inflation. There's obviously conflicting evidence in that. I think it was probably mostly monetary stimulus that caused the inflation during COVID. But
Even Jerome
I think
Powell
like
agrees,
clearly
right?
that what
Yeah,
monetary stimulus
you're
caused.
correct because there
That
was
quantitative easing like
stimulus
substantially
Americans.
increased.
Yeah, it was mostly monetary stimulus, which is not the government deficit spending or whatever. But we did see pretty strong growth after COVID or whatever. We continued to see strong growth, just growth under Biden after we passed like those stimulus bills or whatever. And I think most of the inflation was not due to that increased government deficit spending. And if it was responsible for some amount of growth, that means the trade-off was probably worth it. Now, I'm sure there like studies.
Tax cuts are going to lead to growth.
Way on this, I don't have. I don't believe the tax cuts are going to lead to that much growth. And I believe that, like I said earlier, most of the growth from the tax cuts is going to be offset by the fact that we're going to see an increase in long-term rates, and that's going to hurt companies' ability to invest. So if you look at like the estimates from people who try to take into account the interest rate cost when it comes to the real GDP growth, it's like 0.4% increase in real GDP.
We're going to cut
over 10 years
taxes
because
and we're going to have
because of these tax
growth, and then businesses are going to be scared to invest because all this growth is just going to make them
No, long-term
Making
rates are going
super
to go up
scared,
because the
bro.
government is borrowing. Do you disagree that long-term rates tend to go up if the government borrows more?
I just don't want the government borrowing anything.
I understand,
Well,
but
you
do
want the
you
government,
Just
period.
get rid of
agree
this
with the fact
spending. you don't have to
Oh,
borrow
you
anything if you don't
can have
spend anything.
all I'm saying is that, like, long-term rates probably are gonna go up because of the bill, and if you account for that, that's likely gonna decrease
Yeah,
investment
it's
in
like
the
your
I
the other socialism that you like causes a problem, and therefore it's capitalism's fault. I'm saying fuck you and fuck your
How am I
socialism.
saying is capitalism? I'm just saying that this bill is probably
But think
gonna
about it.
increase the
Super
long-term rates,
carriers,
which is gonna
Fabian.
offset most of
Super
the
carriers.
it's gonna offset most of the effects of the
I
tax
want
cuts or whatever, so
private
it's gonna end up
PMC super carriers.
I do
It's gonna
too.
be more
And listen,
efficient.
in my
It's gonna-
perfect
oh,
world, we're having
oh
the
my
Taco
God.
Bell McDonald's wars. All right, like
Black Rock versus Wagner. Let's
Bro,
go.
that's what I'm
Like,
talking
fucking-
about, bro. Like, I mean, listen, I until that day, we need to pay for those super carriers somehow. I'd rather it be tariffs.
Dude, super carriers are such a drop in the fucking bucket. When we were talking about the U.S. federal budget, we were talking about welfare. That's it. 61% of all the fucking taxes that you're spending is welfare. And non-fund wants more and more and more and more of it.
More than that.
Right? When we're talking about the military
You want
budget,
all of
we're
it.
talking about infrastructure. We're talking about literally everything that they vote on in Congress because they don't touch entitlements. Like 90% of the time. I mean, sometimes they do vote on it. Obviously, the big beautiful bill is an example of it. But overwhelmingly, when we're talking about tax cuts to this sector and that, we're talking about a quarter of the fucking spending because 13% is the debt. 61% is some form of welfare or socialism, whether that be corporate socialism is included in that as well, right? I'm talking about subsidies to large corporations as well. But you're talking about welfare. You're just talking about welfare. When we're talking about, when you look at your taxes, you're talking about welfare.
We're an insurance company with an army. I understand. You may have disagreements with the level of government spending that we have. All I'm trying to prove
So
right now.
first thing you've said that I agree with
rates
tonight, non-fun, is that America is an insurance company with an army, and that's a fucking problem. But I can't. You almost made it sound based.
Good,
I
bro.
wish you
I'm
had
sure
insurance
I'm
company,
in, bro.
because that's a voluntary
Yeah, we can
transaction.
sell- we can
unlike
sell
the
life
piece of
insurance.
shit that we have to
Guess
deal
who's
with.
cashing in, boys? That's what I'm saying.
So again, the
Gibbs,
thing
we
I'm
need some-
trying to showcase right now.
If
is that
only we
when you
had
account
some
for the
death
fact that
panels.
when you account for the long-term rates going up because of the increase in deficit, it's likely that we're going to see very little total growth from the tax cuts. And like, there are plenty of estimates you can find out there that say tax cuts don't actually like lead to that much growth. Like I know some post-Keynesian friends who would be mad at me for even suggesting that we might see some growth for these tax cuts or from these tax cuts or whatever.
Oh,
And again,
that's ridiculous.
What?
I
mean,
think it's ridiculous
I'd have
that tax cuts don't like lead to growth, right? Because like every
We know they
economist
do.
that says that tariffs lead to negative, like have a negative effect on growth, are also going to say that taxes have a negative effect on growth because tariffs are taxes.
I think tariffs are particularly bad.
Tariffs are an
taxes, by the way,
especially bad
if we want to talk about
yeah.
if we want to talk about the
No, I'm
revenue
fine,
that
I said
tariffs
the
are going to
exact
raise,
same thing.
again, I already mentioned this. Like, if we want to raise X amount of revenue, we should want to do it in the most efficient way. Tariffs are some of the least efficient way to raise that revenue. Trump probably could have passed some VAT. Trump probably could have just like not. I don't even think a lot of the income taxes are
Most
necessarily as bad
efficient-
as tariffs. Trump probably could have.
The most efficient
probably could've
way
just
is
not
to
lowered-
just stop
I'm not
spending.
convinced of that.
True, but Trump probably could have just lowered or not lowered marginal rates on like some of the highest either capital gains or like income tax brackets, right? And raise as much money or saved as much money as the tariffs are going to raise, right? So I think there's that.
Taxing
And
the rich is
tariffs also probably going to
how is
offset
that any less
the-
destructive than tariffs?
I don't know if it's necessarily less destructive, but it's probably it's less regressive, which like I think it's instrumentally valuable.
Why is that inherently good?
I don't think it's inherently good. I just said I think it's instrumentally valuable.
Okay, so
The rich
you
have
assign
lower
no
marginal
value to
utility
it.
consumption. So no, I think it's instrumentally valuable. So I don't think it's an intrinsic good, but I think instrumentally progressive tax systems are usually good because the rich have lower like marginal utility to their dollar, right? So that's usually the reason I would not be concerned as much with taxing rich people.
But, so you think that if we tax the rich, that it is going to be institutionally good compared to consumption taxes on tariffs that you just said that you're for. I guess you were joking about that.
No,
when you said that
I
you
wouldn't
like
necessarily
consumption
say.
taxes.
I wouldn't
I'm just trying to
necessarily
understand
say
your
for-
theory here because you're saying you believe in multiple things that contradict. Like, so you
I'm
don't
saying
actually
that
like
it-
consumption
it's
taxes on the
preferable-
middle
it would be
class.
it'd be preferable for Trump not to raise or not to lower the top brackets, marginal brackets on households earning $400,000 if that raised as much money as the tariffs are going to raise. Because I don't think not lowering those brackets would have, the same negative growth effects, negative uncertainty effects that we're seeing right now from the tariffs. But overall, I think a consumption tax system would be much better than our current system, and I think we should transition to that. I don't think that's politically feasible, but yeah.
Okay. So your claim is that if we that not lowering or raising taxes on the wealthy would be better than tariffs because tariffs are a consumption tax. But
no, because
consumption taxes would be better.
Tariffs also tariffs also hurt.
All right, so you're talking about the entire supply chain
investment.
Okay, so why do you think consumption taxes are better for the economy in this regard than another form of taxation here?
They don't have as big negative effects on its savings and investment, and I think savings and investments usually just has much more positive spillover effects.
Where are you getting? Why do you get? How are you saying that it has less of an effect on savings? Like the money is being taken out of your account one way or the other, right?
Sure, but only when you consume, right? So you can choose to save. You're not directly taxing savings.
Okay, but if you have to spend money to make money, right? You have to purchase things. You have to consume in order for your business to grow, right?
Revenue.
So your consumption tax you're saying it's fine so long as you just keep it in the bank, but somebody somewhere, right? Even if you're saving it in the stock market, you're saving it in a bank, or you're saving it on anything other than a government bond, somebody has to consume at some point in order to make that money, right? In order to produce anything. So I don't understand why shifting it over to this domain is preferable. You're not really explaining why. I mean, I'm willing to take that argument.
When I say consumption, I mean consumption of final goods. So businesses would be exempt, right? They're not paying consumption taxes because what they do when they consume, that's really investment, right? They're buying intermediate goods or they're buying capital assets.
Right, but if middle class people are all of a sudden paying a bunch more money because they're being taxed on everything that they consume, well, in order for them to be able to work, they're going to need higher wages, which means the businesses are going to have to take more of their money and invest it in wages. You're just moving puzzle pieces around and acting like that's superior in some way or that's changing behavior, but it's not.
You could, if you wanted to, you could do a progressive consumption tax. So you could do a personal expenditures tax. You could have essentially close to our income tax system we have now, but just be able to deduct all your savings from it. So you actually only pay taxes on the amount of money that you consumed, right? And you're not directly harming savings that way, and you're keeping it a progressive system. Now, obviously, it would raise other types of consumption taxes may raise the burden, tax burden on middle class people or whatever. No, I think I would have a welfare state that offset a lot of that. Because again, what matters is the net payment, how much you get in benefits versus how much you pay in taxes. And under my system, people would probably, lower income people would probably have roughly equal or more.
What you're talking about this being not a progressive tax, but what you're talking about is taxing the poor, taxing the middle class.
No,
I can hear you. You're muted.
Yeah. Okay, great. Okay. Yeah. I like to refocus on Trump's actual record. What do you think is coming in the future? Does this current record give you hope or whatever?
Yeah, fair enough. It was just he was simping for the most regressive tax system ever and then pretending it's not.
I explained you can either have the tax side or the benefit side be progressive to make the net payment end up being progressive, right? So if you have a non-progressive consumption tax, you could have progressive
we'll tax in a fucked up way, and then we'll do more welfare, and then we'll tax for the welfare.
Believe it or not, that's how every country.
We'll just have a symbiotic relationship eventually.
That's how everything works right now. We have taxes and benefits, and sometimes you pay taxes on the transfers the government gives you, right? This is how shit works right now. Believe it or not. Okay, so. I
believe it. It's retarded, and I'm against it. And it's evil. And you're fucking evil.
You could have a progressive tax, a progressive consumption tax, or you could have a flat consumption tax, but have progressive benefits, right? And either one of these will get you to the net payment being the same. And it would still end up being progressive, which I believe is good instrumentally insofar as the rich have lower marginal utility on their
complicated taxes before, but now you're talking about fucking itemized consumption taxes.
Hey, speaking of tax cuts, Texas is getting rid of capital gains tax. Big ups there. Big fan. What's gonna happen?
But I think either way, you'd be simplifying the tax code, right? But you know, like I said, it certainly would not be increasing complexity any more than we already have now. Under my like system, like you'd be able to like the same way you can deduct your 401k now from your income tax or whatever. You could just deduct all your savings, right? And there'd be a lot less like random like itemized deductions for all these like random things. You just be able to deduct.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
That's a more efficient tax code.
Please let's.
But hold on, I do want to
refocus.
before we
This
talk
is
about Trump's
nonsense.
future or whatever. I just want to ask Lactoid, do you think that tariffs are like a particularly inefficient tax, or do you think they are like roughly equal to other taxes?
I've seen some, and this is like a very long conversation that I'm willing to be disproven on. Okay. But I've seen a lot of conclusions that indicate that consumption taxes are not the most inefficient taxes when it comes to growth, but that things like in corporate income taxes are especially bad for growth, and personal income taxes as well are bad for growth. And so while I am open to like, again, being disproven, I'm not convinced right now that tariffs are like uniquely bad. I think what tariffs do is they're going to increase the cost of any kind of good imported into the U.S., obviously, right? Because the company's going to raise the price of the product in order to account for the tariff. That's just how it works. So it functions essentially like a sales tax, right? Like a consumption tax. And the evidence I've seen in consumption taxes is that it does not actually have as much of a growth stifling effect as, again, things like corporate income tax or personal income tax. The domestic industry like effect that, you know, people who really like tariffs like constantly tout, I'm a little bit unsure as to how much of an effect that it would actually have. You know, you mentioned earlier that like Japan and the UK are like pulling back their aid. I wasn't able to find anything about that. From my understanding is they are still planning on investing a whole shit ton of money in the US. And they're not the only ones. And I think there was like some question as to the EU, but there is still, you know, some planned investments coming in from the EU. And I mean, if it just like, again, this could be super ignorant of me. And so this is the part I'm going to say that it's going to sound the most ignorant, and I'm perfectly willing to be totally disproven on it. They're I'm not saying it's good, but there might be something to the idea of we would be able to have more domestic industry if it was more cost effective to do so domestically as opposed to having it be imported from a different country. And while normally I wouldn't care about that, it could matter. It could matter if the country that we're importing from happens to be a geopolitical rival, such as China. And maybe it's not a good idea to rely on our greatest geopolitical rival for our domestic industry.
Some deep thoughts you got here, bro. Deep thoughts. I mean, it's kind of like that's what we've been saying the whole time. Like, you know, like, yeah, China's a fucking problem. We've been importing all this bullshit. We need some domestic industries. Like, what does China have? Like 98% of the shipbuilding or some crazy amount. Like, it's some crazy amount of we can't even build ships no more. And then you're like, oh, beef. And I keep coming back to beef again. Like, listen, if we're getting all our food from somewhere else, what's the first thing you do? You cut off the food. And then we all starve. Like, I'm just sitting here going, like, yeah, sometimes you have to have the industries, and you have to have specific industries here, and you need them flourishing. And, like, the idea that we're going to accomplish this without having some kind of negative, like, rod to hit these people with at an economic level, it's just ludicrous to me. Like, I'm not a fan of just perish by themselves, but it's all situational. Like you know, we got to use them somehow. And also, another thing Lactoid kind of mentioned was, you know, if we're sitting here not having taxes, and that's going to stimulate growth, well, what it also does with the tariffs is it encourages us to spend our money on domestic products, which is, like you said, increases the supply chains. And at the same time, you know, it's like Fabian said, it does change people's patterns. If I'm going to like go, oh, cigarettes are too expensive now because all our tobacco comes from Timbuktu or wherever the fuck tobacco comes from, they're going to go, okay, I'm not going to go buy the tobacco.
America.
Yeah, but neither internet. I'm just using it as we can pick a different resource, whatever resource stands for the analogy.
Yeah. Real American product.
It's like might have been the one. It's like that.
Yeah.
It's like one of the
whatever, but you know what I'm trying to say, right? Like, you know, if they're gonna sit here and go, like, oh, okay, we're gonna not do this anymore, and we're gonna switch to fucking, I don't know, weed or something else, and that's an American-grown product. Like, you're gonna go, hey, oh, why wouldn't we do this? Why wouldn't you want to stimulate these, like, what I would call, like, necessary industries and, like, get money, and it shifts the money that is going to be spent by the taxpayers from us being taxed to these other governments paying. Like I said, one of the things that Trump like didn't promise, but he said it would be maybe an end goal, is to eventually get the tariffs to replace the IRS. If we're able to, like, choose, hey, I listen, I see you cringy, but just hear me out. If I know it's never going to happen, you know, it's a pipe dream, but incremental change. If I'm not getting taxed,
but it's in contradiction to what I made you state earlier, which is that, like, tariffs are terrible.
They are, but hold on, they are terrible. But listen, if I don't have to buy that product, I at least have the option to spend my money that I would have got taxed on to go get my money and spend it on. Oh, I could buy, I don't know, Israel special bagels, or I could buy America special bagels, and I'm gonna go buy American, even though it might taste a little less, because I'm choosing not to get the fucking imported one because it's taxed more. Like, I'm not having to pay for that directly. Now the other country is paying.
I understand what you're saying. Listen, I understand what you're saying. And when we're talking about beef, when we're talking about bagels, when we're talking about, like, things that are kind of like, no, shipbuilding would be different. When we're talking about, hold on, hear me out. A tariff isn't going to have this huge impact on something like bagels. The reason the tariff isn't going to have a huge impact on something like bagels is because we grow wheat here, and then we can turn wheat into flour here, right? We grow eggs here. We can make all of those things here at relatively cheap cost. And so the only reason we would be importing bagels is because either the product is superior in quality or the product is superior in price. Okay? The problem is when you start talking about computers, you start talking about cars, you start talking about things that are incredibly complex and are made in literally thousands of different factories. And when you start putting tariffs on things that require a global supply chain, you can't create the United States of America cannot, without extreme cost, create something similar to the entire global supply chain. And so it's not.
You know what we can do, though? We can just go take it over with our fantastic military, and now we own it. That's really the next second part of this. That, like,
go to war with the world.
Take over the fucking world
really well.
If you take over the world, that is a really expensive. Hold on, that is a really expensive and complicated way to get rid of tariffs, because tariffs are the problem. Like you just described the most convoluted way to get rid of tariffs, which is to make the rest of the world fucking us, and then we don't have to pay tariffs anymore, right? Like, the problem is like,
no, we're just securing efficient supply lines, bro. That's what we're doing for national security.
I'm saying, listen, I agree with you that countries have been fucking us over throughout the whole world, and the left has been ignoring it and downplaying it, and the right has been ignoring it as well. I mean, I don't know to what degree they aren't in cahoots. That's not as important right now. But what I agree with you, right, is that there are hidden tariffs that are paid throughout the whole world where they play funny games with VAT taxes to basically create a tariff when they say that they don't have a tariff. There are real tariffs that occur. There are massive regulations. There are protective regulations on how much things can be imported. And we have, for the most part, been less destructive in that than other countries. We've had tariffs, right? We especially on specific items. We've been tariffing China for like fucking 20 years. We're acting like this is the first time we've ever done it. But it's usually on specific items and things of that nature because they're negotiations. And I agree with you that we've had a bunch of pussy presidents, Trump included, in terms of using legislation, regulation, and tariffs and things like that as a negotiation tactic. But that's not what we're fucking seeing right now. What we're seeing is somebody that is destructive towards our ability to invest because he can't make his fucking mind up on what tariffs are. Okay, like, I guarantee you, if like we had a JD Vance in charge and not a fucking Trump in charge, and JD Vance, for whatever reason, came in and said, yes, tariffs are a tool. We're doing reciprocal tariffs. We're engaging in trade negotiations. We're sick of our country being fucked over. I would be way more inclined to support the administration's tax policy because I know that this is a temporary metric that is targeted towards countries that are fucking us over and fucking over free trade and fucking over the ability of everyone in the world to have cheaper, more efficient products. And like that would be one story. But instead, what we have is a fucking madman that taxes islands that don't even have people on them and fucking taxes people like Singapore because just fuck them, I guess, and fucking can't come to any resolutions, that constantly says in a couple days these massive tariffs are going to kick in, and then a couple days later is like, oh, we're in a pause phase. And what this is doing is there's a whole bunch of fucking people that are like, I guess I'll buy government bonds, and I guess I'll I'll invest in businesses that have really fucking slow growth because at least I know that my fucking money is safe. And so this is fucking over the investment class. This is fucking over businessmen. And then we use small incremental gains in the economy as how some evidence that the tariffs are working. They're fucking not. They're destructive and they're stupid. And Donald Trump is handling them in the worst way possible.
Okay, so just real quick, I want to be clear. The reason I'm like against tariffs is because they're not really a consumption tax, right? So they don't treat all consumption equally, right? Because they're not taxing necessarily consumption in the US, but are taxing consumption when you buy stuff from abroad. So that's a distortion right there. And second of all, they don't tax only consumption. They also tax intermediate goods and capital goods that companies buy to invest in their business, right? So if I'm importing steel to make a car, I have to pay a tariff on that. If I'm importing a machine that I need to make semiconductors or something, I have to pay a tariff on that. That's not a consumption tax. That's a tax on imports, right? That's what tariffs are. Also, tariffs are regressive, which again, I believe is
by that definition, if you're using that definition of consumption, which is not consumption, but you're talking about consumption.
I'm talking about the C component.
If you were talking about consumption as the finished product, then yeah, sure. I agree with you. Like buying imported steel is not the end product unless you're, buying steel, but you're still consuming in some regard. You're still purchasing things for production. It's a distinction without a difference, right? Like if you're taxing a sector of the economy that is used to produce goods, then it becomes a tax on those goods, regardless of whether or not it's a direct tax on the good itself.
I think I like probably agree. When I say consumption, I mean like the C.
Like it's not a magical thing where like you tax one section and it doesn't impact the entire supply chain. It doesn't impact the business. It's like you can't just move chess pieces around. Like the tax is a tax. The tax is always destructive towards the economy. There's no such thing as a tax that produces growth. There's no such thing as a tax that produces wealth. There's no such thing as a tax that has ever helped anyone ever. Every tax has always been harmful and it has always been destructive. So it doesn't fucking matter at what point you're fucking doing it or whether or not you put it in a different box and pretend like it's good in this way or that way. Like, yes, it is true that different taxes affect behavior differently in the economy. And therefore, in short term, we might see different behavior because of that. But that,
Okay, so whether any tax is good is a way more fundamental conversation. All I'm trying to say right now is tariffs are like a kind of particularly bad type of tax, right?
They're
so
bad because
earlier.
Wait. What's the conversation?
Hold on. What's the marginal excess burden on a tariff compared to a
I don't know if I have data for that exactly, Lactoid. I see what you sent here, but I think I probably agree with this. But they're comparing it to a personal consumption tax, right? I think
they're comparing it to like a consumption tax, but I'm not convinced that a tariff doesn't operate exactly like a consumption tax because the tax is paid for by the consumer. Because when you go and purchase the product, the cost is raised in order to buy the product. Now,
tax is paid by the consumer.
It also applies to capital goods and intermediate goods, right?
Which is then passed on to the consumer.
Sure, but that's not you're taxing stuff that's not consumption. I understand the incidence might fall on the consumer, but you're not actually. You're fundamentally distorting investment decisions a way a consumption tax doesn't necessarily do so.
I don't think
the consumption tax would do the same fucking thing.
Yeah, and I'm not necessarily convinced that it would be. Well, what's
twice as expensive? If a product that used to cost $100 now costs $200 because of a new tax, then what do you think the company does? Does it not have pressure on their fucking investment?
Lactoid.
Because look, when I'm like looking in, just like right here, specifically looking for the marginal, because I had looked into some of the stuff before this debate, and I knew beforehand that like corporate income taxes are like the worst for growth. Income taxes are really bad for growth. Believe it or not, property taxes are like the best taxes if you don't want to affect growth. So there could be an argument to shift more taxation from corporate and income over to property.
Boo! Boo!
When it comes to consumption taxes, that's pretty close to property taxes in terms of overall effective growth. And like as I'm looking for right here, basically all the analyses of tariffs seem to like put it in the same category as the consumption tax.
No. So a lot of people, will like define it as a consumption tax, but they're talking about different things. So when I say consumption tax, I mean, there's 4 components of GDP, right? And I'm talking about the C component of GDP, consumption. The type of tax I want to do only taxes that consumption of final goods, right? I understand companies will pass on the cost of taxes on investment to consumers. So the incidence to some extent may be on consumers, but you are taxing investment. You are taxing other things when you do taxes that aren't a consumption tax, right? So like you're taxing business to business transactions. Like
if I find, and I'm looking through an IMF paper right now, if I find any source
those people
showing
have,
that the marginal
jobs, where do people get their money from, dude?
Well, hold on. If I find any kind of source,
if everything becomes more expensive,
some people do.
They need more money. So then, how are they getting paid? They're getting paid by a company, which means the company now has to increase wages, which means the company's investments are being taxed by the consumption tax. You cannot fucking isolate parts of the economy and then say that the tax isn't affecting those parts of the economy.
Okay,
the tax is affecting the economy as a whole.
I don't say it doesn't affect it at all. Like you can find papers saying that consumption taxes still have some negative effect on investment. It's just not as negative effect of investment or in growth as like things like income tax and like capital gains tax.
I find that to be complete utter nonsense.
I understand you deduced from human action what I just said was nonsense, but okay.
A principled position instead of just shifting numbers around until the data tells us what we want it to tell us. It's fucking nonsense to think that we're going to tax 30% of GDP and it's like actually going to be better and more efficient because we found a more efficient way to tax it. Taxes are taxes. They're always destructive. And everybody pays for them in some way or another.
That's obviously a much more fundamental conversation, right?
Yeah.
No.
Well, to somewhat agree. Like, I don't agree with this idea that like, well, taxes are just taxes. Like, all taxes are theft. So in that case, I guess they're all sort of the same thing. But like, if there is a more efficient way of doing the theft, that overall means that the theft has like a less of an impact on your economy.
The only
like
way
all
that
else
it is
equal,
more
that's
efficient
better,
is
right?
that if it costs less money to deduce the truth. That is the only way the tax is more.
No.
It's less money to figure out.
Lactoid's figured it out. He's right. He's right. Right. This is exactly what I just said, Lactoid. So what's happening is, we're not getting directly taxed. The burden shifted, and Fabian admitted this earlier when we were talking about this. It's bad, but we can use it to negotiate with these other countries, right? And there's a possible net positive. So we're going to increase domestic industry. Well, individuals are not going to be getting taxed as much, and the revenue, it might be taxing us in an indirect way, but it's a less bad tax. Nah, because I can choose to buy American instead of buying these.
I admitted that the tariff can be used as a tool to stop other countries' taxes and negotiate away taxes. That's the only way that it's beneficial in the long term is if it destroys taxes.
Yeah, it hurts them, helps us.
That's the only benefit.
Now we can get increased
industry. Help us. I
don't get taxed directly. I get to get more money in my pocket. I can choose how that money's spent.
Yes, you get to get more money in your pocket, and then the fucking economy inflates, and the prices inflate in some other way. So the more money in your pocket is only a relative. It's no relative difference because prices go up somewhere.
That is fake
news.
The
prices.
That's what he's saying. We know the negotiations.
Tariffs do. Hold on. Tariffs do increase prices. So what I'm
on
talking
certain
about,
specific goods, mainly though.
Right.
There's the whole point right there. If it's on specific goods, then you can choose to buy the American version. That increases efficiency at the American market, which grows that market. So hold on. And so instead of being taxed, if I got rid of all the taxes here and the American market's growing, which means more jobs domestically, which means, hey, they're spending and people are choosing to buy that, then guess what? It follows. Guess what? American industry increases, American profitability, there's more money at home, and then we're choosing not to buy these other.
It's very simple. America's producing a widget at $100, and China is selling us a widget at $80. And then we
tariffs making $120.
A 20% Then we institute a 20% tariff, right? And now all of a sudden, China's product is $96 and the American product is $100. You're right. It is true that some people will then be like, well, it's only a 4-cent difference. So, you know what?
No, you crank it so it's higher.
And that strengthens the American company. But the only reason that occurred is because the price of the product was raised up to what America was producing.
You would make it more. You would make theirs slightly more. So the China one, if you choose to buy the China one, it's now equal to or more than the American one. Then you would buy the American one, preferably.
Yes, you're correct. If you were to then institute a 30% tariff, right? Then the Chinese product would be $102. The American product would be $100.
That's the way.
Now, you used to be able to buy it for $80 fucking dollars, but now you're forced to pay a fucking American company $100.
And then what happens over time? All right. So now what happens over time, Fabian? So as domestic product increases and catches up to demand, what happens? Does the American product then become cheaper than $100 now that we built up the industry to build that product?
You could argue that prices may go down to some degree on the American products, but it's never going to go down to what it was previously, all other things being equal.
You don't know that.
You're also
especially you have to consider the opportunity cost, right? That's the main thing. Is that there's always the opportunity cost.
You lost money in between, right?
Sometimes the pain now or the pain later, right? Like if we keep letting them use us, it's just going to always be pain later.
Oh,
I mean, there's just like
you lost
very
money and you lost the like.
It's
money
a transitionary period
in companies that would have created. Yes, and during that transition, there's no fucking investment happening, and so we're just fucking plateauing instead of progressing.
Sometimes, but what I'm saying is sometimes you have to plateau to build the industry in your local area. Like whenever you don't do that, you will have things come up like agriculture, and this is why I keep coming back. If we suddenly can't produce our own food, for whatever reason, we're fucked as a country, and that can always be a tool these countries use against us, right? So you might have a plateau period where you invest in American agriculture while you sit here and you stop fucking, have these tariffs where, we're gonna get Chinese beef or whatever at fucking, a nickel and dime. Like, that's not exactly where it's coming from, but like, that's just for the sake of this argument. Like,
right. So for the sake of destroying progress, you will invest in American businesses so that you can protect the American businesses from the potentiality that Trump goes and bombs everybody. Fucking yay, wonderful world we're working in. Like,
that's the world we live in, fam.
We could stop fucking bombing everybody and just fucking work with all of our partners in South America that grow a fuck ton of food and stop trying to overthrow countries every 10 fucking years down there. And we can have 20 more Malays in South America and we can move into prosperity instead of this taxing war-based nightmare fuel that you're fucking drinking over here. Like, it's stupid to try to like just stop bombing people and just fucking trade with people. It's not that fucking complicated. There's a fuck ton of people that can grow. There's like there's like 280 fucking countries in the world. We don't need to be at war with all of them. Some of them can import us some goddamn food.
But Gibbs does want to go to war with them.
Yeah, I'm saying. In fact, Wednesday we're going to
get rid of the tariffs.
In fact, Wednesday we're going to talk about going and invading.
There'll be
Mexico.
no more tariffs once they're all fucking America.
That's right. And then you have your global supply chain.
And just to clarify, Gibbs, you want, understandably from your perspective, you want American agriculture to expand, but then you also want to get rid of all migrant workers at the same time. So you want you're gonna have like, let's say, half of America, picking fruit and growing agriculture. Like what's gonna be your army then? How are you gonna build all the ships and the super carriers?
Oh well, then guess what? This is where we can get this. I've already advocated for this. We make the legal immigration process easier, and we can import people with the legal way. I've advocated for this many times. We needed a better system for legal immigration, and that's a good thing. But we got to get people out first, and that's really
right. But you want this domestic manufacturing again, going back with even Scott's example of the Chinese widget to the American widget of like, even if it's just like a toy. Okay, you want like more Americans making cheap plastic toys.
Well, I go outside right now and I could go teach you 10 meth heads to go work on the line in the factory, and they'll be excited to do it. Like I guess argument that people won't be working.
That's true, but you think that extends to you want more Americans making shoes? You want more Americans making
their job. If you put a job out there and there's a demand, somebody will do it.
How do you get to this world of super carriers when everyone is just making cheap Chinese plastic, cheap toys and shoes and textiles? Like you want to pretty much go backwards, but at the same time have this huge technological advancement of super carriers and your massive arms.
There's room for both. There's room for both.
Okay, okay, all right.
It's like we can't
Right,
like
I
walk
mean,
and chew
Gibbs,
bubble
Gibbs, I
gum.
think you're.
Fuck.
I,
Hey,
I think you're just
testing,
like not really.
Can people hear me out
Yeah,
there?
I can hear you.
Like
Mhm.
not you guys. I mean,
Mhm.
like you test my stream.
I'll test.
Testing. 'Cause
Yeah,
didn't
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, we can hear you.
Fairy Queen, thank you for the $5 super chat. Does non-fon think child labor is instrumentally good?
I think it like.
Sean, thank you for the membership that you gifted. But yeah, I'll let our friend non-fon answer that.
Yes.
I think it can be. So I like when it comes to the real world, I don't know exactly where like how many cases there are there, right? I've talked to some people who have moved me a little bit, but the evidence I've seen suggests that most of the time the alternatives to child labor are worse for the children, and child labor doesn't even seem to have like these as negative effects as you would imagine on a lot of the children that are toiling away in the sweatshops making our laboo-boos. Okay, so I think it can be, and I think that evidence I've seen suggests that it usually is, but there's evidence that says otherwise as well. So
Child labor laws are evil.
true, but so Gibbs, I think you're missing like the fundamental point here, which is that like there just broadly are like gains from trade. Like you can say like, oh, we're gonna do these tariffs and we're gonna increase domestic production, and like I to some extent I think tariffs can do that. I think it's unlikely these tariffs will do that because of their universal tariffs that tax a lot of intermediate goods that harm all these companies trying to produce the stuff you want them to produce. But like that just limits the gains from trade. So there just are broadly gains from being able to produce what you make best and specializing in something and trading it for stuff that another country is especially good at, right? Or there are gains from economies of scale where if you specialize in something, your average total cost can go down, and countries can trade based on that, and that is broad-based gains too.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree. I feel like I kind of went into why I disagreed. I don't know like how many more different ways I can disagree.
You already agreed that tariffs were really bad.
Well, no, but yeah, I mean, I think that, yeah, I agree that, like, if I had my perfect world, I wouldn't have fucking tariffs. But, like, it's the same thing. It's like, I also think that shooting somebody, if you get to the point where you shoot somebody, that's a negative. They're dead now, right? Like, hey, cool. It's the same kind of thing. It's like having a gun. It's an economic gun, right? And so, yeah, I think sometimes having the fist is a situational good. And I think in this case, it is a situational.
You should shoot someone that's breaking into your house.
Yeah, and right now they've been breaking into. Listen, random Singaporeans have been breaking into our ass. That's what they've been doing. We've been getting gang fucked by Singapore and all these other countries, but like.
I mean, like they're moving back that way, but their government structure is changing. But as it stands right now, up to this day, Singapore hasn't initiated any fucking tariffs on us, and we tariff them.
Yeah,
so we just shot randomly.
Yeah, but
we fired into a crowd because a few people in the crowd were bad.
Hold on,
That's what Trump did.
Hold on. Have they been benefiting from being like financial center of Asia? Would you say that's yes?
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand.
Would you agree that they've been like a financial like hub for most of Asia, like one of the financial hubs?
Yeah. I mean, they're an intermediary.
Yeah, they're an intermediary. Great. So cool. So what they have benefited from is American economic benefits, right? They have sat here and they've made themselves amenable, right? And just got all
that's how trade works.
Cool, right? And they've just lived off the teat of our fat. That's what they lived off of, like a parasite. We could have been doing this directly, but instead they're taking our jobs away as financial centers. So yeah, you know what? They can get tariffed too.
So just anyone that trades with us is fucking us now?
Yeah, basically, yeah. If we're not getting a cut of the pie.
Okay, well that's gig.
What do you mean cut of the pie?
Yeah, like
obviously there are positive.
They need to start paying us.
He's like the mafia. He just wants a taste.
You gotta get a taste, bro. They're benefiting, bro. Why do we have this military if we're not using it?
It's like a mafia boss just being like, your business is doing real well over here. I'm gonna have to break some kneecaps.
They're benefiting from our protection,
this money because you're. Whatever.
Listen, y'all talk about American stability, us being a stabilizing force and all this shit, like with shipping lanes and whatnot. They're benefiting from that. It's time to pay the piper. That's what it's time. Y'all act like this is just some foreign concept. Well, you can paint it as the mob, but you know what? Fuck them.
No, they buy shit from us.
Oh, wow.
When they buy shit from us,
it's time to buy shit from us and give us a taste. It's time to give us a taste, too.
No, because if we spend money on taxation, okay, to have this big-ass Navy, okay, those are costs passed on to American economy. which means our prices are higher because of the money we're wasting on our Navy, which means when they buy our products, they're paying a premium for the fact that we have a big ass Navy. They've already paid for it. That's how trade works.
Would you say they would exist like as they are as a financial like major hub if it wasn't for being an intercessionary person for the U.S. and the rest of the Asian countries?
Probably not.
Oh, well, in that case, it's time to give us a cut.
That's not a fucking gotcha. That's
It
just
is.
you
It absolutely
trying
is.
to make excuses
Nope.
to bomb and tax people.
I mean, they're just factual statements. Like, listen, everybody's been benefiting from us. It's
Did you
time for
say
us
the
to benefit.
sky is blue? Oh, well, there it fucking is. The sky's blue, so
Listen,
I'm right.
sometimes
What
it's
the fuck
just
are you
not that
talking about?
complicated. Yeah, I mean, it's that simple. If they're benefiting from us and living off our fat like a parasite, then it's time for them to give us some
They're not a
benefit.
parasite. They're paying for it. And we're benefiting. That's
Nah.
how trade
Right.
works. Is that I have something that you want, you have something that I want.
Yeah,
and
we
I want
allow
the
them
thing
to
that
exist.
I want the thing that you have more than you want it.
Well, I mean, I guess
you
they
want the
just
thing
don't
that
want to
I have
continue existing as
more
a
than
country.
you
I
want
mean,
the thing that
we
you have.
allow them
and
to
you want the
continue
thing that
existing
I
as a
have
country. That's what we're
more
doing.
than you want the thing that you have, and then we trade,
No,
and then we both benefit. That's not a parasitic relationship.
nah, it's not parasitic. Listen, we're allowing them the thing that you're not realizing.
You can't just fight
we're
that it's
allowing,
parasitic
we are
because you
allowing
think
them.
America is a big penis.
Yeah, I mean, we are a big penis, and it's time for us to start using it. We're start ramming it down their throats, bro. Listen, we allow them to exist as a country. They exist at our good graces. It's time to pay us a cut for that.
They have been.
Not
Every
enough.
time they buy something from us.
Well, now it's time to pay us more.
Okay,
Are
I
you
want
in a
to.
parasitic relationship with your
So we're
grocery
going to
store?
tariff
Gibbs?
them, our own people. They're not.
Okay.
Corey, sorry. Are you, Corey, did you have something you really want to say?
Not really. Like, no, it's
Okay.
okay.
All right, Lactoid, please.
So,
Hey, Satan, no.
I haven't done in the brief moment here that I've been looking more into this. I haven't obviously done enough research to be like super convinced one way or the other. But from what I can find, tariffs and consumption taxes appear to be pretty similar in terms of marginal excess burden. Some economist who knows more than me could, feel welcome to come say that I'm wrong if I'm wrong. But I'm as we stand here today, I'm not convinced that tariffs are like a especially bad tax if you compare them to like corporate income taxes or personal income taxes, because and maybe I don't know if this is a disagreement that I have with you, Scott, but it sort of sounded like it is a little bit, which is that on the moral level, I agree that taxes are theft and they're wrong. Like you are like extracting people's property from them. But if maybe this might be difficult for an ANCAP to understand because you just don't want to have any of it. But for those of us who say you're going to have some of it, we obviously want to prioritize the sum of it that is as least harmful to the economy as possible. And I don't mean no harm.
It's not difficult for me to grasp. I just think
Yeah.
that's a false claim. I think that it's false to claim that one tax is that has less like marginal excess burden than another. I think that is just a nonsense socialistic take. Period. I think because what you are doing is you're trying to isolate things from their actual, like you cannot measure a tax's full impact on the economy, because in order to do so, you would have to know every single subjective value. You'd have to know the future. You'd have to know every subjective value that someone had in the past. You can't know what decisions a person may or may not have made in an alternate timeline where a tax didn't occur. And so you can say like, oh, a consumption tax appears better, or, a property tax appears better, or this tax appears better. But the fact of the matter is that when you take money out of the economy, that the tendrils of the economic interactions they multiply every single transaction to a point of absurdity. That is why the price mechanism is always superior to economic calculation, because central planners are not capable of putting the trillions and trillions of data points that exists within the price equation. It's impossible for any government official to ever be as efficient as the market. And it's impossible to know the actual impact of any one tax over the other. There is just empirical evidence of we have a before and we have an after. But it's like, you can know what the price of potatoes are in Atlantis, and you can know, what the impact was. You can't know what the impact is. You can only know after a policy occurred later in the date what the new price of the potatoes was. And so I just reject the entire socialist nonsense that we can actually track and understand what level of burden on the entire economy one tax has over another tax. The only thing we can know is economic pressure, and we can deduce that from praxeology and human action, as Non-Fon made fun of me because Austrian economics is superior to the nonsense that all of these different forms of socialism have made up over time. It's based off of shaky foundation of guesswork.
So I understand there's like some level of prediction required, right? And prediction is not always going to be accurate, as with all kinds of predictions. But the question is, if we have to do it, like based on the best available evidence that we have, which I agree is not perfect because the world is a very complex place. So whenever you put in like one policy that, let's say like we work through is like, obviously this is going to have, XYZ pressure, it might not actually become realized because there's some other kind of intervening force that's causing hey, we're going to decrease inflation by doing this, and then inflation increases. That doesn't necessarily mean that the thing that you did, like for example, if we implement tariffs and we see prices go down, tariffs therefore must mean that it causes prices to go down. No, of course not. I'm not saying that.
Right.
But we know
that it has an upward pressure on the price.
We know that it has an upward pressure. It obviously does, right? But we can also look at taxation.
How some economists.
Sure, but I think it's also fair.
We both know what it means.
Right. But I think in the same way that we do that, where we say like, okay, if we make a product more expensive for a producer to provide to consumers, they're going to have to raise their price. Like we can predict that they will have an incentive to raise their price. I think it's like
pressure towards them.
Yeah, I think it's also like pretty fair to like make similar assumptions about what sort of incentives you're creating through different forms of taxation. So if I am increasing taxes on your labor, there is like a kind of a insinuation there that I'm now disincentivizing your labor, as opposed to if I'm like, let's say, have an increased amount on property taxes. Perhaps this leads people, theoretically to buy less property. But we can, take a look at these two and say, well, of these two actions, which one of these is overall more productive for the U.S. economy?
Right. So let's look at these two things: taxation of labor versus property taxes. Right. So the argument that you're making, and I'm going to try and steal man, so do interrupt me if I'm wrong. The argument that you're making is that we can look at recognizing that individual, sorry, I can't think of the term right now. But like taxing labor, right? Like we can look at it and say, the more we tax labor, we disincentivize labor. Therefore, our economy might be less productive because people are disincentivized from working because of their labor, right? Yeah. And then we can look at property tax. My issue with this is that the property tax also disincentivizes labor in the same way. And as well, it does. And I'll explain. Let's say you increase property. Let's say you get rid of taxes on like earned income, right? Just get rid of all income taxes. Now everybody makes more money. Okay. Now some people might work more because they get more money, but then some people are going to work less, right? Because the tax has been removed, because now they don't need as much money, right? Because they were making take-home pay of like, let's say $1,000 a week. Now they're making take-home pay with the same amount of hours at $1,400 a week. So they're just going to only work so that they get take-home pay of $1,000 at some point. And then on the inverse side, we look at property taxes. Okay, once we institute really, really high property taxes, well, what happens? Well, now buying a home becomes more expensive, and this puts a downward pressure an upward pressure on the price of homes, and this starts reducing, but now there's less people that can afford a home. And so because less people can afford a home, there's less of a demand for homes. So there's less construction companies building homes. And now that there's less of a supply of homes and there's less profit and less investment in this area because it's highly taxed, that means that rent prices go up. So everyday workers all of a sudden they might have more take home pay if they work the same amount of hours, but more of their take home pay goes towards rent,
but they're going to
towards their property taxes.
Okay, let me stop you.
Goes towards their house.
Right.
Right?
Let me stop you. If you just look at the math straight like that, like you could come to that conclusion. But what you're not factoring in is that they're going to work more. Like because again, human beings
Why
aren't
do you
human
necessarily know that they're going to work more?
Well, we can predict that they will.
Let's look at it praxeologically. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So human beings are creatures of incentive. And if you make it harder to buy a home, I would agree that it's going to be more difficult and people are going to not be so willing to buy a home. Maybe they're going to stay with their parents longer. Maybe they're going to like roommate more. Maybe they're going to do this stuff. But when you make it cheaper for them to work, they're going to work more. And working more not only benefits them in the sense of the money that they're getting now from the additional labor, but by providing goods and services to the economy. This has a whole bunch of add-on effects that go throughout the entire economy. This is what the economists are trying to like calculate here when it comes to marginal excess burden. I agree, it's not perfect, right, but like you have to look at
order.
But it's also looking at second order and third order. It's looking at second.
But it's not trying to predict. It's really not because.
So just to be clear, because the problem
what I'm
is
saying
like
is you have simultaneously argued that there are pressures both to work more and to work less with both of these tax structures. And what I'm saying is that if you shift taxes from one area to the other, then what you get is similar behavior. And the reason you get similar behavior is, let's say you just get rid of the income tax, but don't have any other taxes, and you get rid of spending proportional to the income tax, right? Then some people are going to work more because they can make more money now, and some people are going to work less because they don't need as much money. But if you shift it over to property taxes, and the downstream effects of that are increased costs of owning a home and increased costs of rent, then what you end up with is a balancing out effect, and that the real effect is the taxation itself.
These economists don't agree. Like almost all of these economists.
I am agreeing. I'm saying I'm an Austrian that I think that they are completely wrong, and I think that they are engaged in fantasy arguments.
But Fabian, okay. So
yes,
here's another thing.
Gibbs. One last thing before you go, Gibbs. Do you think that can you, I guess, theorize for me the downstream negative effects that would be comparable to an income tax of a inheritance tax or of an estate tax?
Yeah, I mean, you say like getting rid of one of the
with
other,
with an agricultural exception.
With an agricultural exception is a fucking big one.
Because I knew you were going to go there. Because I knew you were going to fucking go there.
So now I have to not talk about the greatest negative impact of the tax.
Correct. Hey, I've accepted it.
Ignoring the greatest negative impact of the inheritance tax, right? Let's assume we have multi-millionaires that are passing on their wealth to their children, because obviously they have to pass on more than 15 million, right? And let's assume for whatever reason that they haven't gamed the tax code system to set up, philanthropies and charities in their children's name that give them that, and then they avoid those taxes. Let's assume they actually pass on all of their wealth to their children, and that they don't just game the system because that's what rich people do, and that's how the Cantillon effect is affected by the fraud and all of the fucked up things that rich people do. So ignoring all of the evils of corporations and socialism and the way they game the system, and ignoring farmers, what I would say is, in this perfect utopia that also has taxation, is that when you are taking money out of millionaires' hands, there's one, and when they die to give it to their children, there's one of two effects. Either A, the trust fund baby kid is going to take on the father's business and he's going to follow in his father's footsteps. But now he has this massive amount of money taken away from him, which means he needs to reduce labor costs, which means he needs to make cuts in the company, which means he needs to fire people, which means salaries of everyone is going to go down. How much money they make is going to go down because there's less jobs available in the economy because this one guy had to fire a bunch of people because he had to give the government a bunch of money. And so now labor is less competitive. And so companies can pay people less money. And so therefore wages go down and production goes down. Or the second thing is that this kid was always going to use daddy's money and blow it like a fucking idiot. But now he has less of this money to blow, which means he can't buy as many yachts. You got it. He can't buy yachts and he can't buy cool watches.
Who's going to buy the cocaine?
Right, you can't buy cocaine. He can't buy all the cool shit that he was going to buy because he's got like, $10 million less to buy, which means there's less shit that's consumed, which means these companies make less profit, which means that they cannot raise wages, or they have to fire people, or they have to find some other way to increase the price of these goods. And there you go. It has this at the end of the day, it affects people's wages. It affects how much money they make and how much money things cost. Like, so it always balances out.
Hold on. All right. So this is the problem I keep having, and you gotta have given the answer to this, right? As the alternative markets, right? Let's use spam as an example, right? War comes along. Boom. Supply line disrupted. We agree war interrupts global supply chain, okay? The United States, Hormel specifically, introduces spam in 1937, becomes a wartime staple. You go into Japan, not Japan, you go to the Japan now, but if you go into like Guam, Hawaii, a lot of Pacific Island countries, spam is a staple of their diet to this day. Spam right now skyrocketing in production right now.
It's a Salisbury steak, but just easier.
It's skyrocketing. People are eating spam at record numbers now, right? Because it's cool again or something. Or basically, it's also a fucking bad economy-proof food or a good economy-proof food. It's good in general. It's a great thing. Now, what happened? Why did this spam become a big thing?
Okay, we all love spam now.
Okay. All right, all right. Now, look, okay. Why was spam initially introduced and do well? Well, because we had to cut off from the supply chains. It's a food they could produce, and it grew. Massive increase in growth. Okay, cool. Now, spam doesn't need any outside influence. It's an American industry that's growing. That increases job growth. That increases all these things. It's a domestic industry.
It requires some outside influence. However, some of the chemicals are probably produced in other countries in the global supply chain. And so would the tin cans that it's in.
Regardless.
And so the plastic that it's in.
Regardless.
It
doesn't matter. It's not pertinent to the point.
So that's not true.
It is true. It's 100% true. The major reason is because it's basically an industrial native grown industry, right? Cool. Now, this is a great example of supply line disrupted. You just mentioned tariffs that disrupt the supply line. It's going to create alternative needs, right? No beef, no chicken. We're gonna make spam. Wherever we're doing spam out of, that's what we're making out of. It's
beef and chicken.
Okay, listen, you get the point I'm making. It's an alternate to basically the supply line. It creates this. Now, same thing with these products. If I have a widget, it's not American company makes widget A and China makes widget A. You're gonna have American company makes widget C. And it does all these things, but it's been doing whatever. Or we have this product like hemp.
But it's been doing whatever.
Hold on. Or hemp, for example. But they're going, we can use hemp instead of, petrochemicals because we cut them off from here or these other things. We find alternative natural resources to make alternative products, and that stimulates. That stimulates the American economy. Now, if that's stimulating the American economy because we're growing alternative industries. If we're not taxing them, great. That's growth. That's good growth. We've increased it. That's much better than an income tax being the same as a tariff. Guess what? Well, the American consumer and the American taxpayer is happy because now they don't have to pay the income tax and they're avoiding the tariff cost altogether.
This is the problem. This is the problem with socialists, right? Is they'll steal $1 billion and then they'll build a bridge and then they'll be like, look, the stealing of the $1 billion worked great because look at this great bridge. And then they'll measure how much, productivity increased released in this small town because a bridge was built and all these other things, but they just completely ignore the $1 billion that they stole. Okay, it's the same fucking problem with tariffs. It's like, yes, I agree that if you tariff the fuck out of something, or there's a supply chain
they're hurting you.
that there
You're
is
choosing
growth
that tax
in an American business, but it comes at a cost.
But
which
Fabian,
is
I'm
the
choosing
other
the
products
tax.
we would have purchased if not for the tax.
No, because what I'm saying is
You're
we
not
have.
choosing a fucking tax.
You listen.
That's
If
not what a
Americans
tax
get,
is.
hold on,
You don't
it
get to
absolutely
choose.
is.
If I
That's
get
what
to
you're
choose
doing.
taxes, I choose to pay no taxes.
Well,
right now.
obviously that's what I'm saying. But if I have to
see how
choose,
the IRS
hold on.
fucking
But if
agrees with
I'm
me.
sitting here going, hey, I could buy an alternative American product that does X, Y, Z, and it's made from different resources, and it's cheaper, or we replace this product with this American
Why
one.
is it
hold
cheaper?
on,
It's
hold
cheaper
on,
'cause
hold
we
on,
tax
hold
the
on,
other
and hold on,
product.
and I'm not getting taxed natively, right? If I go and buy that, and I go and buy this product after an initial transition period, and I'm buying this shit, guess what? Oh, that's more money in my
Sneaking
pocket.
in a lot with
Hold
initial
on,
transition
hold on.
period.
That's more money in my pocket long term as a consumer and a taxpayer if I don't have to pay capital gains, if I don't have to pay property, if I don't pay
You do
income.
not get more money in your pocket from
Oh, you
fucking
absolutely
taxes.
do.
What is wrong with
It's
you?
not for taxes. I'm getting I'm not getting taxed because I'm choosing the American product. How do you not get this idea? If there's one product that's tariffed and I choose the
I see
American
your hand,
version, it's
Bob.
not.
How do you not get this idea?
I mean, it's pretty simple.
Let's
Gibbs,
let
the
non
fundamental-
Fawn. He has some. Go ahead.
Right. So look, it's a fundamental issue again. Is that you're just like ignoring the sort of gains from trade that exist, right? Like I understand, like you don't like think they're real or whatever. You think all these countries are ripping us off if they're ever engaged in trade with us, but you're not thinking about the opportunity cost of not trading with these countries, right? Like obviously, sometimes maybe we can build out domestic production or whatever,
got a raid,
but
by
that
the
comes at
way.
the cost of a bunch of other sectors, right?
Okay,
That comes at
thank
the
you.
cost of productivity from just not engaging in specialization and not engaging in the general gains from trade. And then look, like that fundamental reason, by the way, is like why part of the reason why tariffs are not like what I would consider a consumption tax, right? They are not a neutral consumption tax because they're only taxing consumption and also capital expenditures and intermediate goods from other countries, right? Like we're favoring one type of consumption over the other. That's not something that you would ideally want in a consumption tax. And again, ideally, you wouldn't want taxing intermediate goods and capital goods as well, because those have a lot of negative effects on productivity, for example. We have a lot of really good evidence that trade just increases productivity. Yeah.
You can respond, our friend Gibbs, but then we'll wrap things up. You're
Yeah,
muted.
Gibbs.
I think you're muted.
Oh yeah, I feel like we can wrap it up. Like no, I feel like we kind of already hashed this one out a few times now, though, throughout this period, non-fun a little bit. I don't know what I'm gonna add that's new to what I like to that response. But yeah, we can just go into closings if you want.
I don't know if anyone can hear me. Corey, if you could.
We can hear.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
You sound sick.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mentioned that.
You missed that. Yeah, you missed that part at the start. I'm quite sick. Yeah.
yeah, they can
it's
hear you
not
on
gonna-
stream.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this just hasn't been a great day, unfortunately. But I really do appreciate this conversation
Because of the tariffs, I understand.
Well, no,
They're harming
actually, yeah,
us
because
all.
of tariffs. I agree with you on so much on the
Couldn't
tariffs.
afford his cold medicine, man.
The thing I wanted to talk about, and I wanted to like discuss with I guess Gibbs and Lagtoid maybe are the trade deals. I didn't hear your opinion on trade
Oh yeah, we didn't even get
Trade
into
deals
that.
in quotes.
in quotes.
Deals.
Because oh my god, I have so much to say
Deals.
on that. But we'll have to discuss that some other time. I appreciate everyone who came through, and non-phone. Thank you for coming through and giving your opinion. You were quite educated. You were given points that I know I can have. You're much more knowledgeable on this particular subject than I am. And so are many of the others on the panel actually. Shout out to you. I hope you enjoyed yourself here.
Yeah, of course. Fun time.
Okay. Well, we hope to have you back in the future. Thank you, Admiral Gibbs, for coming and being such a good sport. Again, I wanted you to have backup, but I just didn't work out this time.
Yeah, it happens.
Hopefully, we can have your friend in the future.
Yeah, she'd be a good
we'll
addition.
talk.
She has like a nice perspective on the econ, especially since she's like a like higher kind of execs. She could have got like the macro picture. She would have been good, but it happens when people don't fail. Also, I just want to say, I don't usually call out chatters, but Green's aplenty. A lot of smack talk, and then when I called you out, a lot of this. Real pressed. Listen, you're gonna run the mouth. Be ready to back it up. Don't be a bitch. But anyway, you can find me everywhere as Admiral Gibbs.
Yeah. And guys, before people start heading out, audience members, if you are new, we had a really great conversation on Trump's economy. If you didn't see it, check out the VOD on Twitch or YouTube, and hit the follow button on Twitch and YouTube. So just want to make sure that I get that in before you guys, anyone heads out. I'll give out an outro to the other people. Corey, thanks for coming through and giving Gibbs and Lactoid some grief.
Always a pleasure to give anybody some grief. Well, except for you, Prime, of course. A quick question to Gibbs: Is spam a luxury product now?
Hey, listen. I hope not. You know what? If spam becomes a luxury product, I'll tell you. Then you'll have me convinced we're in a bad economy.
Okay.
All right, that's the level. Why level we have to.
Hey, I don't know if that's the level that'll make me indicate that, but that would be a pretty good indicator, I think.
But Admiral Gibbs, at least nothing you and I have. Friend, I love spam. Been eating it my
I love
life.
spam too. Spam's great.
Really, I've never tasted it, but it looks disgusting.
I mean, listen, not everything that's good tastes good. Looks good. All right.
I need to track this. And if I remember correctly, you hate chocolate, but spam number one.
Oh, spam's fire, bro.
You're talking to me, Corey, right?
Yes.
Yes, indeed. I do hate chocolate. It's awful.
Y'all motherfuckers are all gonna have
love
gout.
Spam.
Love this fucking spam.
And yes, indeed, I do eat ass. So I mean, that's what my taste buds like.
You like what you like.
I mean, like what I like, love what I like. But thank you, Corey, for being here and being such a good, great member of the community. Thank you, Scott, for coming through, friend. Really enjoyed your takes. We had some disagreements. I would have loved to have been able to jump in a bit there. But I thought, obviously very well presented. Did a great job, fighting your fight like you usually do. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm Scott. Follow me on Fabian Liberty. YouTube. Stop fucking following my Twitch. Every time I fucking follow me, I get 4 or 5 people that
just come back, bro. It's growing. We're growing again on Twitch,
dude. I do not want to go on Twitch, man. I love Twitch. I love the platform's uses, right? Obviously, Twitch has an extremely bad botting problem, and and things like that. But mainly,
I just put out a new botting initiative.
Spicy shit. I don't want to. I don't want to get banned off of Twitch because then I'm fucked from ever going on to anybody else's Twitch stream.
Yeah. Scott needs to be able to say.
I have to protect myself.
I mean,
right? You know what I mean?
At the start of the stream. I mean,
yeah,
but,
you know what I mean? Like on YouTube, I get to call whores, but if you call them out by name on Twitch, they frown upon that because that's their profit model is whores.
I do like whores.
Majority of their money.
Whores the best.
Big fan. And whores
they make a lot of money. I'll give them that.
They're real capitalists.
Good people doing good capitalism. I appreciate them. Speaking of whores, no. Sorry.
Wow.
No, of course not. My friend, or a person who doesn't like them, who's squeamish about them. But my friend Lactoid, really happy to have you here. It was a great conversation. Again, I enjoyed hearing what you had to say.
Some motherfucker just followed me on Twitch. Fuck you.
You touched on some things, even terms. I was learning some terms from you. And so it was just fantastic. I love hearing knowledgeable people discuss something. And I think you did a great job of coding yourself, as always.
Yeah, Prime, I mean, shout out to you for muscling through whatever you're sick with. I hope you get better. One of the things we didn't talk about when it comes to Trump's grade, I mean, we talked a lot about the economy, which I think was really the focus of the topic, so that's fine. And on that front, I'm not convinced that all taxation, I think it's all bad, but I don't think it's all the same level of bad. And I'm also not convinced that tariffs are uniquely bad. And I'm not convinced that the Big Beautiful Bill is uniquely bad either. I'm optimistic, and I hope that things get better. But one of the things we didn't talk about was geopolitics, which I know some people just find to be absolutely horrifically boring. But I think it's relevant to bring up that this coming Friday, there is a slated meeting between Trump and Vladimir Putin to hopefully resolve the war in Ukraine. Some of you know I've been following this extensively. I think it'd be a good thing for the death to stop. It's a lot of people focus on Israel Palestine, and I'm not shitting. I'm not. Yeah, I know hot take. A lot of people focus on Israel Palestine, but when you look at the number of casualties, it's not as much compared to.
Can I ask you a question, Lactoid?
Also much smaller country.
Hey, Lactoid, after this meeting, if Russian nationalists start calling for the re-annexation of Alaska, and suddenly ethnic Russians appear in Alaska and they try to reclaim it, will you stand with me and call for the full-scale invasion of the new USSR? Will you call?
No.
You will let them annex Alaska? Will you let them do that?
I'm not gonna let anybody annex Alaska. Okay. I'm not gonna do on a full-on invasion.
If they try with the ethnic Russians, will you be ready?
It's not gonna happen.
Ancestral lands.
Trump just recently mediated a peace deal between Armenia and Azerbaijan.
Well, what about worst case scenario? Would you condition it then? What if this happens? What will you do? If it happens, what will you do? I want right here now. No, but if it happens,
we would defend Alaska. We would defend Alaska. We're not invading Russia.
Why wouldn't we take over their fucking peninsula over there on the other side if they try to invade ours? You gotta learn a lesson. You're not okay with us taking over. What is it, Kamachakana or whatever it's called?
I'm not okay with us invading a nuclear power.
Yeah.
I wanted to end.
Wow. Pussy Lactoid.
Yeah, I know. Crazy.
He wants to let him have Alaska. Is what he's saying.
Yeah. You can find me at Lactoid TV. On Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. And rest in peace, Econoplay.
Oh, he died?
No, he
retired.
No, he retired. Basically, he got exposed for being the communist piece of shit that he is. So then he decided he was
I don't think that's true.
Deal with people being mean to him on the internet.
He's a socialist, just like Lactoid.
Too much harassment. No, he's not a socialist, just like Lactoid. Lactoid is a well-meaning socialist. Econoboy isn't.
Well, I am a malicious socialist. That's true. But okay, so we'll leave that alone. I hope I wish well to Econoboy. But also,
I do too, which means he would drop the socialism and become a good man.
You know who I care about on this panel? Well, all of you, really, I do. I'm just getting to know you, non-fun, but you're cool. But I really, of course, appreciate and love my friend Scott, right? So, having Scott in mind, we're going to raid a channel.
His Twitch channel.
It's a woman dressed in a bunny outfit, right? The name of her, the title of her stream is Live, Wallet Draining, Pay Pig. I think that this is the content.
Repent,
my friend.
Repent.
I was on CuteBot stream last night.
The Christians were right.
My cup runneth over.
You're welcome. You're welcome. We are bringing degeneracy to Twitch Bowl.
You're
welcome for this, guys.
Andrew Wilson was right the whole time.
I am bringing civility by calling out these whores to the degenerates. All right,
Andrew Wilson had it all wrong. His biggest problem wasn't the lefties; it was Gibbs bringing the degeneracy to Twitch Bowl. That's what's going to happen.
They're already gone. But thanks so much, guys.
America will be hedonist again, bro. I'm telling you.
I didn't have the site muted. I only had the stream muted, and then when you raided, it just was blasting whatever music she was having.
All right, I'm gonna bounce.
Thank you for the
same.
Guys. Have a great one.
Nice to be on a panel with you, Notfon. Although I support your shrimp welfare.
Hell yeah.
Dude, you didn't bring up shrimp welfare. That was the biggest L.
That was
big W.
Yeah.
I assume you're. Are you vegan?
I like my shrimp to suffer.
I am. I'm philosophically vegan. I'm still working on being dietarily vegan. I only relatively recently committed to dietarily being vegan. So I've had a lot of sort of 3-day streaks before breaking it. but I'm working on it. Yeah.
So what you're saying is you want me to
Cool.
send you a
That's
giant stack of steaks? Is what he wants. He needs the steak.
Exactly. Obviously.
He needs it in his
Yeah.
life. We gotta convert you back, bro.
Take care, everyone.
Dude,
All right.
I support veganism insofar as it lowers the demand for meat and makes my meat so much cheaper.
Well, you're
Well,
seeing
gotta
the
go.
backlash. You're seeing the backlash on conservatives and lab-grown meat.
Adios, y'all.
Okay, that's a fight that's in the pipeline of conservatives are.
I'm not. I don't want to fight lab grown meat. I also don't want to.
All right, let's. Ooh. If cows grew on trees, let's go to somebody here. What are we doing here? What are we doing? Let me do this. Beginning of the month, boys. Let's do Damn it. Thank you for the bits. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Reactivate camera. All right. All right, guys. Sorry, we didn't organize my next group. All right, guys, we got some good content coming up here, guys. Sorry for that little pause. Here's what's going to happen on tomorrow at 5 p.m. Central Time Standard. I'm going to be debating Dylan Burns, and we're going to be talking about Trump's first 6 months. On Wednesday, we're going to be doing the Trump invading. We're going to do United States. Thank you, Mylan. I appreciate it. We're going to be doing United States invading Mexico to kill the cartels. And on Thursday, we're going to be doing debate championship series with Tyler and I don't know who the other guy is here. Let me look. Tyler and Sociologic. Whoops, I had a brain fart. And they're going to be discussing if Superman would support ICE. That should be good. And then next week we'll have a debate championship series match between. Okay. Sorry. People respond to all my messages. Everybody's finishing shows. And then Thursday, next week we'll have a debate championship series match between Pisco and Ryan McLally over constitutional immunity. And also Tuesday of that week, I have a 1v1 plan. I forget the man's name, but that is planned, and that will be 7:30. So we have a lot of big stuff coming up. Good times. We're getting things planned further and further out. Big shows. Wednesday should be a fight. It should be a good one. So keep it here. All right, we are going to also raid. We might be live here a little bit. Let's see. Who can we raid? Let's raid Brutal Backs.